The anticipation's killing me. And welcome to Kingston, Ontario, here on your, early Sunday morning, a little early for Sunday football, 9 a.m. kickoff here at Richardson Stadium. It is going to be the West meeting the East in the number 2 ranked team from Alberta versus the number 7 team from New Brunswick here in the very first contest of the 2019 Football Canada Cup. And for Alberta, they come in hungry after placing second last time around, losing 31-26 in the 2018 Football Canada Cup final to Team Saskatchewan. Whereas for Team New Brunswick, sort of a different flip to the story, if you will, as they started off the tournament last year with back-to-back shutout losses, only to prevail over a maritime foe for their first ever Football Canada victory at this tournament, 14-9 versus Team Nova Scotia. The two teams are respectively lining up at each other's sidelines. Just quickly, the referee for today is Richard Book, umpire Daniel Dorskin, field judge Jeff Watt, as well as side judge Scott Barry, back judge Marc-Andre Deneau, headlines Justin Andrews, and line judge Scott Velberg. The two respective teams send out their captains. And again, just looking down at my stat sheet here for the Alberta team, this is a squad that was only expecting 3 returning players from their silver medal finish from last year's competition. One of those people they thought they were going to return this year was their quarterback, Anton Almendrid. Now he's out of Lloydminster. He in fact won a provincial championship with Lloydminster, and he was the starting quarterback for all 3 games in last year's tournament for Team Alberta, including a 31-21 victory over Team BC, where he went 8 of 14 passing for 185 yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. He also added 40 rushing yards for 1 TD as well for a 4-touchdown day. Then against Quebec in the semifinals, prevailing by 10 points, 23-13. He went 12 of 22 passing for 204 yards. Didn't throw a touchdown, but didn't throw an interception in that game. And in the final dance against Team Saskatchewan, 12 of 19 passing, 216 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, just finishing 5 points behind Team Saskatchewan for the 2018 Football Canada Cup. So with that being said, who's Alberta looking towards? Well, it will be the quarterback kid and Eli Hetlinger. Now, Hetlinger won the 2017 Western Challenge with Team Alberta, as well participated for Team Canada at the 2018 International Bowl. He's a super quick release type of quarterback, and the tricky thing with defenses is that he can throw the ball off balance, and that can obviously cause a lot of mayhem. I know Johnny Manziel maybe isn't the right guy to use the analogy for these days, but back in his college days, he was the guy that slung the rock with a sidearm from a bad angle or two, but still managed to wiggle it in there, and that's what they're hoping Eli Hetlinger is able to do for Alberta. And for New Brunswick, well, Ryan LeBlanc, he had 9 yards on 1 catch and 2 yards on 1 rush in the first ever Football Canada victory for Team New Brunswick in that 14-9 contest versus Nova Scotia. And as the coin toss is done, it appears like we are going off to the national anthem here in Kingston, Ontario, as we get set for a 9 a.m. kickoff here between Team Alberta and Team New Brunswick. I'm Johnny Urban, taking you through all the action, and I'll catch you on the other side of this quick break for some national pride.
We're having a technical difficulty here, folks. I'm afraid we have no anthem to start this game.
So it appears due to technical difficulties that there actually won't be a Canadian national anthem sung, as the players are going to sing this one out. Let's take a listen down at field level. A pretty Canadiana moment. Well, it doesn't get much more Canadian than that. Here at Richardson Stadium in Kingston, Ontario to kick off the Canada Cup, the 2019 edition here. And to be honest with you, things didn't go off right away as the technical difficulties didn't allow the anthem to be played over the PA system. So what do the players do in the most Canadian fashion possible? Well, they sing our national glory a cappella before this kickoff. And as you can imagine, 9 a.m., a tad early on the schedule, but this is all because of noise violations here in Kingston, Ontario. If they put the remaining games a little later, they're afraid that the final game might exceed that 10 p.m. noise violation due to the municipality. So they've started all these games a little on the early side, a 9 a.m. kickoff, and you would imagine for the team kicking off the ball in white with blue lettering, numbering, and pants, that is Team Alberta. They're already a couple hours behind schedule in their minds. I mean, they come from out west, and now they got to deal with the 9 a.m. kickoff here in Ontario, whereas for the guys in maroon with the gray pants and white lettering, well, Team New Brunswick, I guess you could say, has a little bit of advantage here when you consider that, well, they're technically an hour up on what their normal schedule would be. Lining up to the pigskin is Luke Nolan. Nolan boots this one away, and it's a fellow 17 actually having the ball play him all the way back into the end zone. Gabriel Gagne will try and come out with it. Gagne is popped down to the turf at the 10-yard line, and that's where New Brunswick is going to start their first offensive drive of this 2019 Football Canada Cup. And as you look on the screen there, you are seeing some big, and I mean big boys for Team Alberta. The defensive line, including Davin Civic, Adrian Minikata, Dylan Rimmelard, as well as Ty Anderson. So you're going to expect to see a lot of those boys as the offense for Team New Brunswick goes out onto the turf, led by Samuel Tremblay. And now for Tremblay, he played for Team New Brunswick at the U16 Eastern Challenge last year in Guelph, Ontario. The first play of the game with Tremblay in the gun. His brother Caleb, by the way, is also receiver on this team. This is going to be a run play, and Alberta swallows them up whole as it was a brief run to the left side of maybe a yard or two to bring up second down. 11:25 remaining here early in this first quarter of play. As you're looking at the replay, a masterful job by our production team, giving you all the angles all day long here on your beautiful Sunday. 18 degrees at kickoff. Light gusty winds from the northeast direction. Don't know if that'll play a factor on the kicking game throughout this contest. Second play of the game on second down. It's a quick throw. It's actually bobbled to the ground. That would have been a live ball. It is corralled, and I believe that was Caleb Fogarty out of Ludus Mountain, New Brunswick, who actually bobbled it initially, but wisely picked it off the turf. And as you see here, if that ball is back, well, in my opinion, that should have been an incomplete pass and ruled dead right there. But according to the officials, they said it was behind him. And as a result, a quick 3 and out from Team Alberta. And with us less than 2 minutes into this contest, and with the end zone at their back, I'm imagining that Matthew Morton, number 2, the punter for Team New Brunswick, might debate taking a safety here. So we will see what exactly transpires on this next play. Field positioning, although it's not necessarily a windy, gusty, or rainy day, could mean it all, and he is going to take the knee. So the first couple points are put on the board here in the 2019 Football Canada Cup as Alberta quickly goes up 2-0 with 10:27 remaining here in the opening quarter of play. A reminder that this opening quarter of play is brought to you by Huddle. Football Canada would like to thank Huddle as one of the elite sponsors. Coaching football just got easier, bringing life lessons, access videos anywhere. Keep your team in sync. Visit www.huddle.com to find out more about video analysis for your squad. As the two teams, well, they're going to meet up with their respective coaching staffs as now everything's been flipped over on its end. Alberta will get the ball back into their possession with the ball placed at the 35-yard line. After the safety, it'll be a quick boot right back into Alberta's possession. Now picking up the ball there is number 10. That's Dylan Day, their kicker out of St. Stephen High School in Old Ridge, New Brunswick. Now naturally after the safety, he's going to have to place the ball down at the 35-yard line. It's placed on the near hash marks. And I'd imagine he's just going to try and boot this one as far down as possible with Dylan Day. as there are plenty of open turf to choose from. And he's going to boot this at one of the big guys who originally bobbles it. 44 had to touch him. That was Carson Ramus. His teammate actually collects it off of his bobble all the way up to the 50 and gets a little something out of nothing. That was Costa Zanis. Now he's at a Crescent Heights in Calgary, Alberta. Plenty of Calgary, Alberta men. And again, I mentioned this at the beginning of the broadcast. Big boys for both these teams. I was actually in the dining hall last night, and I felt like I was the smallest individual with all these kids under 18. But boy, oh boy, what did they put in the water in New Brunswick and in Alberta for that matter. First offensive play of the drive for Eli Hetlinger out of Harry Ainley in Edmonton, Alberta. 3 run to the line, 3 options to his right side. Fires a laser over the top. Intended target in Sony Bermudez Chavez out of Edmonton. And for Bermudez Chavez, he's one of those returning players that they are looking towards to lead this offense. Again, this was an Alberta team expecting only 3 players to return from last year's silver medal finish. Well, it went down to 2 as their quarterback from last year did not end up making the trip. And on that note, by the way, it will be the backup in Luke Nolan, also the kicker, as the backup. As they go back to the air again, this pass is completed, fighting away, and eventually taken down to the turf at the 50-yard line for Team Alberta was Haley Luters. And Luters out of Sherwood Park, he was tackled fiercely down to the turf as we get a nice replay here on the near side. And he almost was able to break loose on that play. Great job to kind of wrap him up and tackle him down to the turf by Reed McKay. McKay out of Fredericton High School in New Maryland, New Brunswick. And just like that, it's a first down toss, so they move the chains. And Alberta content with sticking in this gun. Do we get a third straight pass? No, a bit of a jet sweep. Over to the far side, trying to take him down to the turf. Eventually popped out. They're going to get a flag on this play. That's interesting because Dylan Day went in on the tackle, and Nathan Treitz ended up filling him in at the sideline. There's a late flag on that. I'm wondering if it's for the Treitz tackle. They're pretty much going to say that the Albertan boy and Sony Bermudez Chavez was already well out of bounds prior to the tackle, and that is exactly the call on the field. So that should give Alberta even more real estate as they move further in to New Brunswick territory. For Alberta, as I mentioned before, they started off the tournament last year with a 31-21 win over BC, followed it up by a 23-13 win versus Quebec, and then unfortunately lost in the finals to Team Saskatchewan 31-26. Now for their head coach from Alberta, it's Darcy Park. Park is actually his first year coaching Team Alberta here at the Football Canada Cup. He played in the CFL for both the Edmonton Eskimos and Saskatchewan Huskies. Back in the gun goes Eli. Eli with a bit of a low snap, handles it down, delayed handoff, and now the running back trying to make a little something out of nothing, and Matthew Morin. Morin also out of Lloydminster, 5'9", 160. And maybe we get a replay on this one. If you notice, when he hands the ball off to Morin on the delay, Morin thought he had the gap to the outside perimeter, but decided to cut it back in and, well, still managed to gain a healthy chunk of yards, about 5 on that play to bring up 2nd and 5. 8:24 remains on the first quarter clock here at Richardson Memorial Stadium in Kingston, Ontario. Once again, back into that gun is Hetlinger. He's got Morin behind him. This one is going to pump fake to Morin, going to fire it over the top. Nice tackle down to the turf by Nathan Treitz. Again, Treitz with his second tackle already of this game out of Salisbury, New Brunswick. Picking up the rock that time was Kobe Herford. Now, Herford's out of Sherwood Park. Watch out for Team Alberta, by the way. On the offensive line, Albert Reese is going to protect Eli Hetlinger. A lot of scouts are coming down to watch Albert Reese here today, as early as it is 9 a.m. kickoff from Kingston, as they are now in the red zone, folks. 1st and 10. Hetlinger trying to get the defense to jump. They don't. Here's the handoff to the right side to Matthew Morin, and a nice tackle down to the turf by Team New Brunswick. And getting some applause from his teammates was Costa Zanis. Expect us to say Costa Zanis' name an awful lot. And Zanis, great job to just recognize the play right out of the gate. Headhunt for the running back, and a beautiful tackle down to the turf. Brings up 2nd and down. 2nd and about, we'll say 6 or 7 yards here. Again, knocking on the end zone door right now is Team Alberta, looking for the first major of this contest after getting a safety out of Team New Brunswick's first possession of the game. This one's going to be fired over to the right side. There could have been a little bit of pass interference on that play, but not according to the officials. They're going to say Kobe Herford, the guy you're seeing right in the middle of your screen right there, did an amazing job on defense. He definitely made contact with the intended target. It depends on when he made the contact, though. I mean, I guess you could say that was well after the ball had gotten there. The intended target and Haley Looters, again, another Sherwood Park product for Team Alberta. This brings up third down, so Luke Nolan out of Calgary schools is St. Francis. This one will be a bit of a chip shot for him, a 20-yard attempt from the near hash marks. The snap and the hold is good. The kick is up, and it's right through the uprights. And with 6:29 remaining here in the opening quarter of play, Alberta extends their lead to 5-0 over Team New Brunswick. And actually going through the history of this tournament, coming down to Kingston earlier this week, I was thinking, okay, when's the last time that Team New Brunswick has beaten Team Alberta? Well, it's never happened. They've never beaten them. In fact, New Brunswick got their first ever Football Canada victory in their final game of the tournament last year when they beat Nova Scotia by 5 points in a 14-9 contest. Now, they finished 7th place overall during the tournament to New Brunswick last year. They were outscored over the course of the tournament, though, 75-14. So after the field goal, ball's placed at the 35-yard line. Second offensive drive of the game for Team New Brunswick. As again, they'll be led by the Tremblays and Samuel, the quarterback, and Caleb, the wide receiver. This is a bit of a jet sweep to the near side, but Alberta reads it perfectly. And to be honest with you, nowhere to really go. They might have lost a yard on that play in New Brunswick. As again, we see the jet sweep motion here. And that's number 21 trying his desperate and Fogarty to just get to the outside edge. And if he did, then he's got real estate to burn Team Alberta and possibly get a first down yardage. Instead, he loses 5 yards on the play, and New Brunswick will snap this second down from the 30. 3 run to the line, lots of options to the left side, fires it to the right side, once again goes back to Caleb Fogarty. So he's been the main target on this drive, but unfortunately, he's just going to get the yards plus 1 that he lost on the previous play, and I would imagine that we're going to see the punt team come out here for the guys in maroon with 5:32 remaining in the opening quarter of play. And again, the officials doing a masterful job this morning here in Kingston. The referee and Richard Book, umpire and Daniel Dorskin, field judge Jeff Watt, as well as side judge Scott Berry, back judge Marc-Andre Deneau, headlines and Justin Andrews, and line judge and Scott Valberg. So going back to the 20-yard line, it appears to be, will be the punter for Team New Brunswick, trying to lift this one away and give his team a shot, and Matthew Morton, I watched him during warm-up, was nailing the ball about 40 yards each on his punts. We'll see what he does here. This one is a beautiful skied punt all the way up. They got to give him enough yards. He gets the kicker's roll all the way down to the 35. It's collected by Morton. Matthew Morin tried to make as much as he could out of that play, got close to the 40, maybe a return of about 5 yards. And what a great job on the kick that time from Matthew Morton to Matthew Morin, in case you're keeping track at home. That was Matthew Morton to Matthew Morin. Interesting enough, but there does appear to be a New Brunswick player down at the 46-yard line. That's one thing that, every equipment manager, every coach, everybody at this tournament, whether it's a volunteer or a parent that made the trip down, you sort of hold your breath because this is a showcase tournament at the end of the day. We want to see every athlete that's participating, no matter what team they're on, succeed, have a great showcase effort throughout the week here in Kingston, and hopefully get a few more, letters of intent in the mail from universities, whether they're here in Canada in the youth sports scene or south of the border in the NCAA. So you never like to see any player get injured at any time, but he does get up on his own accord and appears to be okay. That is Sean Moore, the defensive lineman, 6'1", 219, a big boy at Moncton High School, but goes to Cocaine, New Brunswick, as 5:01 remains here in the opening quarter of play in a 5-0 contest for Alberta. Now, for Alberta, during the history of this tournament, it has not necessarily been kind to them Between 2014 and 2017, Alberta lost 4 consecutive times in the bronze medal match. Between 2013 and 2011, well, they lost 3 consecutive times in the finals, all to Team Quebec. So they're tired of being a bridesmaid. They want to be the bride this time around here in 2019 in Kingston. 3 run to the line, 4 options to the right. Looks like a handoff on the inside edge, and muscling his way past the 45. Nice little slice and dice at a Kingston, Henry Wisewood High School in Calgary, Alberta. Now watch him go to work on this handoff from his quarterback, Eli Hetlinger, and he's dragging a couple New Brunswick players behind him, including Owen O'Neill out of Sackville, New Brunswick. He was kind of being dragged along the turf as motoring along was Jaden Caston. They go back to Caston on this next play. We'll see second down and about 4 yards. And no, it's going to be a pass, but it is the Caston. He's got the first down yardage. Takes 4 New Brunswick players and eventually get him down to the turf, but not before they move the chains here. First down play for Alberta with 4 minutes remaining in the first quarter play and a 5-0 lead. Now, New Brunswick, one thing that maybe I haven't mentioned already is you're getting another replay. They go back-to-back plays to Jaden Caston, and why not? He gets you the first down on the catch after getting enough yards on the run. But for New Brunswick, they have the most returning players of any team in this tournament with 15. So they have 15 players that know what it feels like to have that 1-2 record, but get the first victory ever against Nova Scotia, as there's a nice pass and a massive hit. Oh, my word, at the 45-yard line. Amazing throw by Eli Hetlinger, and then a great catch by Sony Bermudez-Chavez, who's one of the top receivers in this tournament, as a bit of a play action, if you will, but just a laser thrown in there by Eli. But man, oh man, Nathan Trites, he's already had a fistful of tackles already in this first quarter. He's having himself a day here early out of Riverview High School in Salisbury, New Brunswick. And I do apologize if I'm botching any of these city names. I got to visit New Brunswick. I've only done the Fredericton tour. Pressure coming against the quarterback. He completes the pass. He's hit down to the turf. Ball moves up to the 35-yard line. It'll be shy of the first down. Keep an eye on Eli Hetlinger, though, as 2 New Brunswick defensemen came in a hurry. And you don't quite see it on that one, as you do see the amazing catch, though, by Haley Luters out of Sherwood Park. But again, the quarterback, it's a pretty impressive play when you have pressure coming from both sides of you, and you manage to, stay cool in a pretty heated situation and throw a dart like that. So lots of options to the right side. He's got Jaden Caston as a lone back. A bit of a fumble. The ball is loose, and New Brunswick recovers at the 35-yard line. Unbelievable. As Team New Brunswick gets a bit of a break there. Alberta's offense was continuing to look like it was going to roll. This was an offense that, they stuttered out in the red zone, but was able to get a field goal out of their last drive. They looked like they were approaching, edging closer to the gray zone than to the red zone in a similar situation. Well, no. A botched snap right here. It's laying around the ball. And the great thing about footballs is that they're oval shaped. So you really can't predict where that ball is going to go and what it's going to do. And I believe recovering it at the end of the day, having an opportunity right there, was his teammate, but I believe it was Owen O'Neill, who was the guy that ended up coming away with it at the end of this morning. As now New Brunswick is trying to get Alberta to jump defensively. They don't do it. 3 run to the line. The quarterback fires a dart over the top to the 40, skipping past 1 tackle, and it takes 3 Alberta players to rip him down to the 45, and he's awfully close to the first down yardage that time in Ryan LeBlanc. And LeBlanc, again, one of those 15 players to return for Team New Brunswick from last year's Canada Cup. And as I mentioned before, 9 yards on 1 catch, 2 yards on 1 rush in that first ever Football Canada victory for Team New Brunswick last year. So it is a first down for the guys in maroon. Here's a handoff, though, and coming in with some pain. Number 57, and he lets them hear it, too. Jack Dutton, why not? Okotoks' finest out of Holy Trinity High School. I mean, he just stormed right through the gap, found the running back, and says, "You're mine." Put him down to the turf. It's a loss of 3 yards for New Brunswick on that last rush. In the final minute of this opening quarter of play, things move fast here in Kingston in the 2019 Football Canada Cup. 5-0 contest here for Alberta. By the way, both teams all have their 3 timeouts. No timeouts used just yet. 2 run to the line, 3 options to the right side. The quarterback rolls out to the right side. He's going to air this one out, the first big air play of the game. They fight for it. Are they going to give the ball? Now they're going to say it's a loose. They're going to say that was a live ball, and Alberta recovers? According to the official, that's what's good. So they're going to say that that ball was still live despite that 2 players were fighting for it. I've never really quite seen that in any form of football before. And then a New Brunswick player, if we see on this replay, I think he was trying to help out his teammate by tackling him ahead with the ball down in his possession. Instead, watch this, the ball pops loose, and it ends up costing New Brunswick possession, as jumping onto the pigskin with glee that time was Nathan Turner. So go figure. Team Alberta fumbles the ball away. New Brunswick gets it back, gets into Alberta territory, and whoop, they fumble the ball right back into Team Alberta's possession. Ball placed at the 39-yard line. Back into the shotgun goes the quarterback, Eli Hetlinger. He's going to hand this one off and right up the gut with a head of steam as Matthew Moran gets the first down on about a 13-yard gallop. Barring a penalty, this should be the final play of the opening quarter of play in a 5-0 contest for Alberta. As Johnny Urban taking you through all the action, and I'll be back later on today, too, with the Saskatchewan versus Nova Scotia game. But don't you worry, we have every game broadcasted right here, so don't you, dare touch that dial. 2 options to the left side and 3 for Eli Hetlinger. 3 run to the line. Looks like this is another handoff to Moore, and Moore makes a move past one New Brunswick player, then spun down to the turf past the 45. I think they're going to mark him down at the 43. And that does conclude the opening quarter of play. And again, a reminder that that quarter was brought to you by Huddle. Football Canada would like to thank Huddle as one of the elite sponsors. Coaching football just got easier. Bring lessons to life as, again, you're seeing this Moran run. And the move he made around Nathan Trites. Now, Trites has been making fierce tackles all throughout the opening quarter of play. And on that time, he got maybe a little too hungry and making a pay with Matthew Moran with a bit of the shoulder fade to get around him. And again, going back to my Huddle shout-out, coaching football just got easier. Bring lessons to life. Access video anywhere. Keep your team in sync. Visit www.huddle.com to find out more about video analysis for your team. As now the ball, as we flip sides of the field for this second quarter of action. The first play of the second quarter will take place from the 43-yard line. Watch out here on the near sidelines. Haley Luders has been pretty much targeted throughout that first quarter of play when they go to the air. It was interesting to see New Brunswick, of all people, trying to attack the air, though, as this one is a dart sent to the near side, but it isn't to Luders. Instead, it's to Bermuda Chavez, who's tackled by a plethora of defensemen from Team New Brunswick, including Matthew Morton out of Grand Bay, Westfield, New Brunswick. So Sony Bermudez Chavez gains about 7 yards on the catch. And just like that, the ball is placed at the 36-yard line. Need about 2nd and 3 here, I would say, for Team Alberta. Hetlinger looks to his bench for further instructions on this next play. 3 run to the line, 3 options to the right side. Looks like it's a jet sweep, though, and this is going to be Sony Bermudez Chavez. He's got the first down, and it'll be dropped at the 28-yard line. So a wise call from Team Alberta. They got Team New Brunswick thinking pass. They go to the jet sweep with Sony Bermudez Chavez. And as I mentioned already, this is a bit of a showcase tournament. One thing I'm noticing from Team Alberta, showcase drives. They seem to be, if they need to go to a Jaden Caston, then they go to Jaden Caston 2 or 3 times in a row. If they're going to go to a Sony Bermudez Chavez, they just went to Sony Bermudez Chavez 2 times in a row. So you're getting more of just a little taste, a little dabble of what these players have in store here on Team Alberta. 4 options to the left side. This one's thrown behind. A dangerous play caught by Matthew Moran. Moran trying to get some blocks. Skips past the 25, tries to cut back in. He refuses to go down to the turf. Eventually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maroon jerseys tackle him down to the turf. Just past the 20s, close to the first down marker. We'll see where the officials mark him down, but Matthew Moran, watch this replay. Misses 1 tackle, refuses to go down from another. Then an entire stable of maroon jerseys surround him and pretty much fall to the ground collectively to stop Matthew Moran in his tracks. Now, he was a Lloydminster product and also out of Lloydminster naturally. I'm assuming that he was also part of the Lloydminster Provincial Championship winning team. Anton Amundred was also supposed to be a part of this squad today, but did not make the flight down, as I guess the returning players is down to 2 for Team Alberta. Regardless, they gave him the first down on that last play, so now they're in the red zone looking to add to their 5-0 lead. Another handoff to Morin, but fighting through the zone, it's out again. Another fumble, and yet again recovered by Owen O'Neill. His second fumble recovery of the game. And for Team Alberta, what is going on? That's 2 fumbles. We've had 3 fumbles in this game. All 3 turnovers in this contest have come via the loose pigskin. And look at how many maroon jerseys had a paw on it. But, of course, it was Owen O'Neill that ends up gobbling it up. That's his second, again, as I recall, fumble recovery of the game. That's, recovering a fumble on defense, that's like something you'd wish, hey, if I could get one of these in the season, that'd be amazing. He's got 2 in the first half of play, folks. As here's a play action thrown over the top. Great job to corral the ball in, and Caleb Fogarty, he was tackled down to the turf by Charlie DeLand out of St. Francis High School in Calgary, Alberta. So 8 yards gained, 2nd and 2 coming up now with 8:49 remaining here in the second quarter of play. Into the shotgun goes Samuel Tremblay. 3 run to the line for Tremblay. He fakes the handoff. Pressure coming. Has to get rid of it quickly. Completes it yet again to Fogarty. That's been his favorite target so far. And Fogarty was down at the 30. That should be good enough to move the chains, and it is. First down, New Brunswick. So watch this pressure being applied in a hastily fashion by Max von Muhldorfer. Max von Muhldorfer out of Bishop Carroll High School in Calgary, Alberta. But a phenomenal job by Samuel Tremblay to say, no, I'm just going to get rid of this ball right away. Lots of options to the left side. Did he pick it off or did he trap it off the turf? The near side judge is saying that's intercepted. The officials are going to have a bit of a conversation. One team saying it was trapped. Another team saying it was picked cleanly off the turf. And they're saying interception, Alberta. I got to see the replay on this one, as that'll be the 4th turnover of this game. 2 for each team. Trying to go to the air with Samuel Tremblay. It got tipped at the line, and I don't know if we can get a replay one more time on that, guys, as it looked like the ball was spinning off of a deflection at the line of scrimmage, coming in on the ball, but I don't know if he got his palms directly underneath it or not, as we get a bit of a different angle on it, or I apologize, that was a previous play on this drive, but, regardless, I just thought that wasn't as clear enough to me that it was an interception from this side of you. It's tipped at the line beautifully, and yeah, you know what? I think he did a phenomenal job, actually. I beg my own pardon. That was a clean interception by Michael Peloso out of Okotoks, as Alberta goes to the air right away. So one thing, maybe when we do eventually show the keys to this game that we were talking about the pre-broadcast, a lot of them, well, I don't think are coming to fruition right now, because protecting the ball is on the top of minds for both these 2 teams. And you have 1 interception, 1 fumble from Team New Brunswick, 2 fumbles, from Team Alberta, for a total of 4 turnovers here in the opening half of play in this first game of the 2019 Football Canada Cup. 7:42 remaining here before halftime. Hetlinger goes to the air. This one is reeled in, I believe, by Jalen Caston. And I apologize, Jaden Caston out of Henry Wisewood High School in Calgary, Alberta, to the far sidelines. He'll be shy of the first down. Now, this is interesting. 3rd down from the 28-yard line. Alberta's going to, Hetlinger's staying out there right now at the 35. And you know what? Their quarterback's staying on the field. Don't necessarily see their kicker either warming up. So I believe Alberta here at the, we'll call it 27.5-yard line, are going to go for it on this 3rd and 3 play. Well, no, now this is interesting formation, as there will be a quick timeout taken by New Brunswick, and I think that is the right call from Team New Brunswick, because that formation from Alberta even threw me off. We know they were going for it, but they're sort of bringing that heavy man package inside, so I think the Team New Brunswick's, thinking, hey, we don't have the personnel out there right now to stop a big boy run, so they wisely called the timeout. For Team New Brunswick, This is a new head coach for them in Jamie Price. He takes over for Chris Hopkins. Now, Jamie Price's previous experience, he coached with Mount Allison, the Mounties, as well as the Acadia Axemen in the youth sports scene. Now, one of the returning 15 players is also the offensive lineman, Bradley Peters. Watch out for him on this next play as again, or I apologize, you'll see him on the next offensive drive. D lineman, that is. Nathan Clark is one of the veterans on defense, as well as the linebacker Xavier Malone. And we'll see if they play a factor on this third down play. And after the timeout by New Brunswick, it appears like Alberta is still saying, you know what, we're going to go for it regardless. As, again, their kicker, for instance, in this game, and Luke Nolan, from my eyes, is still on the bench. Right behind the center goes their quarterback, and Eli Hetlinger. Hetlinger is going to move over to the left side. It's a handoff. There is space. Does he have the first down? Yes, he does. The big boy rumbles all the way up to the 15-yard line. That was Michael Delgado out of Notre Dame in Calgary, Alberta. And you could see that play from the scratch, that it was designed for Delgado. We just didn't know if he was going to go up the middle with it. But great job to sort of motion to the left side by Eli Hetlinger. And that allowed the big boy to rumble up, eventually tackled down to the ground by Jamie Gallant out of Moncton High School. So once again, Team Alberta in the red zone of Team New Brunswick, but not necessarily the amount of points that we thought they would have at this juncture of the contest, just a 5-0 game. Right behind the center is Hetlinger. Looks like a delayed handoff that sees part, and this is a touchdown, Alberta. You can put it on the board. Michael Peloso out of Holy Trinity High School in Okotoks, Alberta, gets the first touchdown of this contest. And I beg my pardon, it's actually Jaden Caston, 33, not 32, going into the end zone. That's the Calgary, Alberta native. The fake handoff to the right, throws it to the left. That's where Caston was awaiting for it, and there was nobody. The closest player to get to him was Riley Estabrooks out of Saxville, New Brunswick. But even Estabrooks was 2 arms length away from him, and, well, Caston is able to just stroll in there. Jaden Caston with the first major of the game brings it up to an 11-0 contest with the extra point here looming from Luke Nolan. The snap and the hold is good. Nolan approaches the ball and puts it through the uprights, and that makes it a 12-0 contest here in the opening half of play for Team Alberta from Richardson Stadium. And again, as I mentioned before, this is a Team Alberta that, is hungry to hoist the Football Canada Cup above their head. They had a golden opportunity last year, but unfortunately fell by 5 points to Team Saskatchewan and ended up finishing second. And as I was telling you before, from 2017 all the way back to 2014, they lost 4 consecutive bronze medal matches. From 2013 to 2011, they lost 3 consecutive finals matches, all to Quebec too. 2013, it was in Moncton. They lost 43-12 to Quebec. 2012, it was in London. It was a 21-11 final for the province of Quebec. And 2011, it was in Lethbridge, Alberta. So you think that was the golden opportunity for Alberta? Well, no. They lost 28-2 to Quebec. Nolan picks up the ball. He's just placing the ball actually down using the pin strip. So he will approach the pigskin here with 6:15 remaining on the clock in the opening half of play. Nolan's going to run up to the ball, and, well, he's going to boot this one away. This one kind of gets caught up in the air, though. I don't know if Nolan intended to do that. It spins around Team New Brunswick, and then falling down with the ball. Great job to at least secure it as he was hit fiercely in Aiden Keefe. Keefe is out of St. John High School in Rothsay, New Brunswick. So New Brunswick's got to get something going here. And specifically speaking, we thought most of their keys to the game was defensively oriented, but when you're down 12-0, you got to switch your defensive mentality off and start thinking about things you can do on the offense to get this show rolling for Team Alberta. All systems go. They got their first major on the board, courtesy of Jaden Caston, as now it'll be the throw from brother to brother, a little Tremblay action, and now Caleb Tremblay to the far sidelines, eventually tackled out of bounds before the 40, gains about 7 yards on the play, was waiting for that connection between Samuel Tremblay, the quarterback, and his brother Caleb Tremblay, the receiver, both, by the way, 6'2", and they both go to the same high school in St. Anne in New Maryland, New Brunswick. So they do give him 7 yards on that play to bring up second down. Do we see another brother and brother connection here? And does Samuel Tremblay try and find somebody else? 3 run to the line. Lots of options. Pressure coming. He's going to have to quickly get rid of this ball. The intended target, I think, was Colin O'Donnell out of St. John, New Brunswick. But again, on the replay, if you see this, no time for Samuel Tremblay to even think about the matter. As soon as he snaps the ball, breaking right through the line is 2 Albertan boys, Davin Civic as well as Adrian Minikata. We're both about to bring the pain to Samuel Tremblay if he didn't get rid of the ball. And he tried to find on the near side his teammate in Colin O'Donnell, but unfortunately just out of the reach of O'Donnell, who comes in at 5'9", 195 pounds. Third down, so a punt will come up here from the 20-yard line. And they're going to try and get a lot of distance out of this one, Matthew Morton, considering there's still 5 minutes remaining in this second quarter of play. And Alberta's offense, other than fumbling the ball away, folks, twice, they seem to be golden, as there was enough yards given by Team New Brunswick. But you know what? This might cost them, as a wonderful kick return coming back up the field is Sony Bermudez-Chavez. Sony Bermudez-Chavez eventually shoestring tackled down to the turf by the kicker of all people, Matthew Morton, making up for his team's efforts. The kicker sort of the last line of defense, folks, and on that opportunity, he said, you know what, I got to do it myself, and he did. Chasing Sony Bermudez-Chavez, and again, just the ankle tackle got him down to the ground, and quickly congratulated by Jordan Colpitz, his teammate, was Matthew Morton. As again, there is actually a flag on the play. I beg your pardon. There was an illegal block in the back. And that illegal block is probably why Sony Bermudez-Chavez had such real estate down the near sidelines to get it almost all the way into the red zone already of Team New Brunswick with less than 5 minutes remaining. As again, the officials just sort of orchestrating everything on the turf and making sure that, well, everything's where it should be. And New Brunswick kind of wisely taking this time as we'll say an unofficial timeout from Team New Brunswick. Really shocked that the officials are sort of urging them back onto the field here, though, as I don't believe an official timeout was taken. According to the scoreboard, they still have 2 timeouts on the board as Team NB. I'll give us a quick jump to thank, Volt Athletics for this opening half, the official supplier of online strength and conditioning services for Football Canada. To find out how you and your team can be in top competitive shape with sports-specific workouts, visit www.voltathletics.com. Eli Hetlinger has had a great opening half. He has had the one fumble, though, folks, as he'll give it to another guy who's also had a fumble, but he's protecting the ball with intent on this run is Matthew Moran. And Moran gets past the 50. We'll say they're going to mark him down at the 46. So he'll need just 3 yards, will Alberta, on this next play to move the chains. One thing I'm noticing about this Matthew Moran guy, other than the one fumble which he had, which, let's face it, he was fighting for more and more yards, which he somewhat was doing on that play, but the initial contact just doesn't seem to faze him. He's been, every New Brunswick jersey handle that gets in him. Everybody's wide open on this play, and easily collecting the ball was Haley Luters. Now, Luters gets stuffed down to the ground. They're going to say the ball was out after he made contact with the turf. It'll be a first down for Team Alberta. To be honest with you, I don't know what Team Alberta was thinking on, or Team New Brunswick, I apologize, was thinking on the defense, because Alberta only needed 3 yards there. And New Brunswick gave him sort of this buffer zone, and that allowed the quarterback, Eli Hetlinger, to just sling it to the left side. And, I mean, if it wasn't going to be Haley Luters, it was going to be Sony Bermudez-Chavez has already done damage through the air. And either way, they're going to crab walk their way to a first down, as trying to claim a fumble on that play was Nathan Treitz. Here's a bit of a high snap, settled down by the quarterback, leaves it to his running back, who gets smacked down to the turf by Xavier Malone, one of the leaders on that linebacking core for Team New Brunswick. As we get, again, a replay on this. It was Kobe Herford out of Sherwood Park, again receiving the nasty contact from Xavier Malone. Still brings up second down and about, 3, so identical play to what we saw with the pass to Haley Luters earlier in this drive. Ball placed at the 31-yard line. Three options to the right side, two to the left for the quarterback and Eli Hetlinger. Another high snap, once again settled down to his running back, who once again has the first down and more. Watch him go. Matthew Moore towards the end zone. Touchdown, Alberta. The second rushing touchdown of the game for the boys from out west. The first one came from Jaden Caston. This one comes from Matthew Moore, and for Matthew Moore, that's got to feel good after fumbling the ball away in this first half of play. He makes up for it with that touchdown gallop from, well, I would say almost 20-plus yards out as untouched. I mean, once he hits the 15-yard line, there isn't a maroon jersey in sight that's going to even breathe on him. He shows a bit of that love, if you will, to the crowd after getting the TD on the board. 18-0, barring the extra point. 2:38 remains on this clock. As it looks like, again, Luke Nolan will go out to hit this extra point away. And why not? He's 1 for 1 on his field goals and 1 for 1 on his extra points. Make that 2 for 2 and extends the Alberta lead to 19-0. Now, unfortunately, I do have to say this. For New Brunswick, being shut out is not something necessarily new. They started the 2018 Football Canada Cup by losing 56-0 to Quebec. They followed that up by losing 10-0 to BC. It wasn't until they faced off against their maritime rivals in Nova Scotia that they were able to put points on the board, and ironically enough, when they put points on the board, they won the football game. They won 14-9, despite being outscored over the tournament 75-14. So currently being outscored in this tournament 19-0 here, with 2:38 remaining in the opening half of play. Ball's placed yet again at the 45-yard line for Nolan to boot this one away. Plenty of Calgary products, too, on this Team Alberta squad. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I count 14 Calgary products from this Team Alberta squad. And I'd imagine for cohesion, that's got to work out well, too, when most of the players are from not just same province, which is a massive geographical area, but the same city. As this Luke Nolan kickoff actually takes a bad bounce for Team Alberta and rolls out of bounds in front of Team New Brunswick's bench. A very wise job by Logan McNamee to sort of let that ball go, because it looked like for a second there that he wanted to play it, but he recognized that the angle of the bounce on the pigskin was that that's going to go out of bounds, and if it goes out of bounds on the kickoff, free yardage, so why not take it as the ball's placed now at the 40-yard line. As you look at the offensive line for this Team New Brunswick, you're looking at guys like Devin Dean, Justin Smith, Nick Titus, Benoit Boujold, as well as Jacob Scharnberg. Protecting their quarterback is Samuel Tremblay. They get Alberta to jump. It was a bad snap, fumbled away, but for Alberta's sake, they can't capitalize on that because they jumped the gun early. From my eyes, it'll be encroachment defense. It'll be a free 5 yards for Team New Brunswick. Biggest thing for Team New Brunswick is, they've shown glimmers of hope with their offense, but they've had one interception on a very bizarre play where the receiver and two defenders were fighting for the ball. Another offensive player came in, hit the three of them, and the ball came loose. The officials said that was still a live play, and that would count it as a fumble. And again, for Tremblay, he's got two running the line now. Looks like a bit of a delayed handoff to number 33 trying to go up the gut, and Nicholas Pilatus out of Moncton High School. And that'll bring up second down, or I believe third down if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, 2:30 is remaining here in the second quarter of play as you see the pile of carnage there, as they do have just second down on the board. So a great job on the run there as Tremblay goes right back to it, and why not? They picked up 7 yards last time. They only needed 3 yards on this occasion, and they get it once again out of Nicholas Pilatus. So they moved the chains, and one of the biggest things, going back to my original point about Team New Brunswick's offense and the way they, they've shown glimmers of hope, but they have those two fumbles, is that the biggest enemy of themselves right now is also the clock with 2:12 remaining, and knowing that, well, the quarterback here is going to keep it and try and do some damage himself, eventually tackled down to the turf by Sheldon McNabb out of Sherwood Park. But actually, and I apologize, that was No, it was the quarterback at Samuel Tremblay. I was taking a look at the wide receiver and his brother Caleb Tremblay. But a great job by the quarterback on that play to get, 6 yards out of it. A low snap picked off the turf, thrown in a haste to the near side, trying to make something out of nothing this time was Caleb Fogarty. And I kind of feel bad for Fogarty on that last play because there's really no room for him to go. As soon as he throws this ball, Tremblay, there is 1, 2, 3 Alberta jerseys and only one blocker there in Caleb Tremblay for the intended target that caught the ball in Caleb Fogarty. So, as I mentioned, the clock being the enemy, with this being a 3rd down and long, it looks like Matthew Morton is going to go out there to punt this one away. And then, if you are New Brunswick, you got to hold the fort because, from my count, Alberta has 3 timeouts remaining. Canadian football rules apply, and, they'll still technically have a little bit of time to work with here as the snap to the punter who boots this one away. A beautiful high, booming punt. Beautifully caught, though, by Sony Bermudez-Chavez. Bermudez-Chavez gets off of one tackle. There's flags on the play. The ball came loose. Where is it? Who's got it? And it is recovered by Team Alberta. Lost in all this. There's a couple flags on the play, so I don't know if that fumble would have mattered anyway. 1:20 remains here in the opening half of play. Not really protecting the ball well that time was Bermudez-Chavez, and wisely spiking it out was Nathan Trice. Now, Nathan Trice, I've said his name a handful of times in this first half. He's got at least 4 or 5 tackles. He tried to get that 3rd fumble recovery, but the officials said the ball was down on the ground already. He's got, I believe, 1 sack, if I'm not mistaken, or at least 1 tackle for a loss. And on top of which, he's just been a beast all over the place. He's one of the guys in maroon that's caught my eye, at least in this opening half of play. 1:20, as I mentioned before, remaining here in this opening half. And for Team Alberta in their 19-0 lead, so 2 penalties go up against Team New Brunswick, which is just costly because now they give free yards to Alberta, a team already up 19-0. One, which I thought they were good on. They're going to say they didn't give them enough yards, so that's a 5-yard penalty. And then unnecessary roughness was also on the play. So instead of having the ball all the way back, let's say at their 30, Alberta's going to start this offensive drive up at their 49-yard line. And as I mentioned, 3 timeouts in their pocket. 1:20 left on the clock. This is plenty of time for Eli Hetlinger and the 2 rushing touchdowns to go back to work. But they go to a run here, and saying no in a hurry was Reed McKay, the linebacker, and a handful of his teammates as they stuffed Jaden Caston, who had the first touchdown of this game, in his tracks. That's going to be a tackle for a loss. And actually, I apologize, the first one in there was actually Matt Mossman. Reed McKay came in to clean up and do a bit of recycling, as now there is a timeout called on the field. Timeout New Brunswick, though, according to the officials. So, okay, they're going to say it was a timeout by... No, now one official's talking to the other. We're just going to say it was a timeout, New Brunswick. Okay, folks, yeah, we'll go with that. 19-0 here, 1:16 remaining here in the opening half of play. Again, this is the very first game of the 2019 Football Canada Cup. West versus East. Alberta coming in as the 2nd-ranked team versus New Brunswick, ranked 7th. And it's interesting, the team that's up 19-0 is actually technically coming off of a loss, 31-26 to Saskatchewan in the finals. And New Brunswick, who doesn't have a point on the board, is coming off of a 14-9 win, their first ever Football Canada victory. And that came against Team Nova Scotia by 5 points, 14-9. So it was New Brunswick that called the timeout, which leaves me scratching my head a little bit, but maybe they saw something personnel-wise that they didn't appreciate on the field. As the snap to the quarterback, and Hetlinger going to quickly fire a dart over to Hereford. Hereford needs a block, gets one, and will wisely run out of bounds after collecting maybe 5 or 6 yards. So now 1:09 left on the clock here from Richardson Memorial Stadium in Kingston, Ontario. 3rd down play, though, coming up. And despite Alberta risking it earlier on their last drive, they risked it. And in fact, they went to the big boy, Michael Delgado, on the left side carry. This time it appears like they are just going to punt this one away. At midfield, they're just going to take the safe bet. 1:09 remains on the clock. And to be honest with you, New Brunswick hasn't put up any points. They haven't even gotten into the Alberta red zone in this contest just yet. So for Alberta. I guess they're just playing the percentages that they're fine with booting this one away. The clock isn't running. I don't know why Alberta's taking so long, but eventually they do boot this one away. Almost blocked by Team New Brunswick. This one takes a bit of a funny hop on 17. In fact, Gabriel Gagne had to be really careful there because when he originally touched it, that then becomes a live ball and he had to fall on top of it. Now they give a flag for, I imagine, not enough yards given, but the ball was on the ground, so it should be just a 5-yard penalty with 1 minute exactly left on the clock here in the second quarter of play. Now, I imagine because it did go off the fingertips, though, of the player, that the officials are having a bit of a conversation as to whether the play will be no yards. And it is a no yards, 5-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. As, again, we get a replay here. Now, they have to give him 5 yards when he touches the ball. And, yeah, the officials are right in that correct. They did not give him enough yards. That was Michael Peloso, who I actually thought scored the first rushing touchdown of the game, but it was 33, not 32. But Peloso just didn't give him enough yards on that. You got to give 5 yards when the ball's on the ground. As they go to a run, does Team New Brunswick. And coming away out of the pile with the pigskin is Platus, again at a Moncton High School. 2nd and long with 56 seconds left. As there'll be a timeout taken by Alberta this time. That's their first timeout of the half. And again, for Team New Brunswick, one thing I will say is, yes, they technically had the ball fumbled away from them when they tried to go to the first big air play of the game. But I'm really shocked. Samuel Tremblay has shown an incredible arm in the pocket and this ability to get the ball downfield. They haven't really utilized that weaponry just yet, though, and I'm wondering if because of the result from the first time where he hucked it down the field, the bizarre play where the receiver and the cornerback met with the meeting of the minds, they kind of had a tussle for the pigskin. A New Brunswick teammate who originally came in trying to help his wide receiver essentially tackled him from behind to try and push him forward, but what he did in that process was he knocked the ball loose, and as a result, the ball was fumbled away and recovered by Team Alberta. So it was a half interception, half fumble, if you will, from Team New Brunswick. One of their 2 turnovers in this game, from my calculations, has been 4 turnovers overall in this contest. As Alberta, a little late to get to the line, New Brunswick, sportsmen like to let them back in. The whistle is blown, though. Number 5 was a mile offside. He's going to come back, and you know what? They're going to get Nathan Turner for Alberta for pass interference. But what they don't notice, I don't know if we can get the replay from the start of the snap, and if Caleb Tremblay's in the line of sight, he's 3 or 4 yards offside when this ball is snapped. He's the intended target from his brother. As you can see on the bottom of your screen, Tremblay, number 5, was already in Alberta territory as his brother gets the ball in his possession. They throw it to him, and the ball was coming back onto the receiver, and they are calling pass interference there. Now, it was interesting because, yes, it was an underthrown ball, and the defensive player has to give him the real estate to make a play on that. I'm really surprised, though, for Nathan Turner that instead he just didn't try and make a play on the ball himself and have a potential interception there. Instead, pass interference is the call against Alberta. That's an automatic first down for New Brunswick. 2 run to the line. Options to the left side. This ball's off the turf. They're going to say incomplete pass, so the intended target being Gabriel Gagne to bring up 2nd down with 48 seconds remaining here in the opening half. 19-0 for Team Alberta over Team New Brunswick. Team New Brunswick looking for their 2nd consecutive victory at a Football Canada Cup game after winning 14-9 in their final contest against Team Nova Scotia in 2018. With 48 seconds left on the clock, their quarterback in Samuel Tremblay goes back into the shotgun with 3 running the line. Pump fakes and a bit of a delayed handoff. A fierce tackle to get in there in a hurry by Jack Dutton. What a play by Dutton. Not only did he read this play accurately, but watch these ankle tackle that he makes on the running back. Now, this pump fake doesn't necessarily help out the running back's cause because now he's got a little half a second less than what the defense coming down on him does. But Jack Dutton, number 57 on that play. A great job by the linebacker from Holy Trinity High School in Okotoks, New Brunswick. As another timeout is called on the field, this time by Alberta. So now both teams have one timeout left each here in the opening half of play. 43 seconds left as this game has kind of come down to a grinding halt here in the final minute or so of play here at Kingston's Richardson Memorial Stadium. Home to the Queen's Gales, who boast being the #1 Canadian football program of the university scene. Now, if you look at the last 10, 20, 30 years, you could go, well, wait a minute, where do you get that knowledge from? But when you consider that Queen's University has been playing football since, well, late 1800s, early 1900s, and they're one of the most established universities in this entire nation, yeah, they got some boasting to do. They also have, by the way, a rarity that not a lot of university teams can say, 3 Grey Cups. Queens has 3 Grey Cups. Try and tell me another university that has one. Another beautiful punt, trying to get, Matthew Morton. This ball's laying on the turf. Now, trying to get cheeky with it was Matthew Moran. Moran didn't want to pick up the ball right away. And great job by the cover team from Team New Brunswick to kind of backpedal a little bit, because remember, they have to give him 5 yards clear to pick up that ball. And Moran, again, he kind of let that ball kind of rumble around on the turf a little bit, and he could have picked it up right away. Instead, he tried to egg in the New Brunswick players to try and see if he could get some free yardage out of the situation. It failed on that attempt, though, with 31 seconds left. One timeout in their pocket. Alberta's offense will go back to work here in the last minute of this opening half. A dart filed over to Matthew Moran. Moran avoids 1 tackle, avoids 2, and then eventually goes out of bounds on his own accord to bring up second down. 25 seconds left on the board here in Kingston. So Matthew Moran, we've seen him on the ground. He's got 1 rushing touchdown. He does have 1 fumble, but they've also haven't been afraid to throw him the ball too. So he's a Swiss Army knife back there for the quarterback in Eli Hetlinger. Now Hetlinger once again in the gun. 3 options to the right, 3 options to his left. He's going to fire it over to his right. It's caught by Kobe Herford. Herford avoids 1 tackle and another one and goes out of bounds at the 39-yard line. And great football IQ by some of these Albertan boys. They're not just making the play, but they're getting enough yards that they can out of it and then going out of bounds on their own accord, which is a very smart play to do in football in the final minutes to make sure that clock stops. But as quickly as it stops, the official will eventually blow his whistle, and, well, the clock will start back up again as soon as the ball is snapped into the hands of the quarterback in Samuel Tremblay. This ball is completed to Kobe Herford. Herford using some blocking schemes. Again, he's got nowhere to go to a sideline this time. Battles all the way up to the 50-yard line. Some pushing and shoving after the whistle, as there is a big pile of at least, I would say, 5 or 6 players from both squads. Cooler heads prevail, and they all separate accordingly. 6 seconds remains on the clock. And again, that was Eli Hetlinger with the dart to Kobe Herford. Herford out of Salisbury High School in Sherwood Park, as it was 18 degrees at kickoff. A beautiful sunny sky, a little bit of overcast to the eastern southern part. But overall, a beautiful day for football and a slight breeze, which I'm hopefully is keeping some of the players cool on the sidelines, as the quarterback and Eli Hetlinger gets final instructions from his coach. If you're Alberta, it wouldn't be a bad idea just to pick up a quick 5 or 10 yards if you can and kick another field goal to add even more points on the board. But we'll see what Alberta does with all of, a millisecond shy of 7 seconds left on the board, as there's a timeout called late on this play by Team New Brunswick. That's their final timeout of the opening half. So neither team has a timeout, but there's only 6.9 on the clock. One thing I never understood about university clocks here in Canada is they always have the decimal clock, and I've never seen a decimal clock play a factor in a football game yet. I've seen it play in hockey, and maybe, I don't know if would they even count decimals in soccer? Probably not. So I really don't understand why, but TD Stadium, Varsity Stadium, Richardson Memorial Stadium, GG Stadium, they all have decimals. I don't know if I cannot wait to see that .1 touchdown on the board. Still yet to see it in my career. 2nd and 2 for Team Alberta after the timeout from Team New Brunswick. 3 on the line for New Brunswick, and New Brunswick's playing a pass-heavy defense here. 4 options to the near side. The pass is thrown behind once again to Matthew Morin. Morin receives one block, sidesteps another. He's going to get some space. He's got one more tackle to miss. He just tiptoed out of bounds. Great job, but there's a penalty on the play. Owen O'Neill has had 2 fumble recoveries, just touched Matthew Morin enough to get him out of bounds. Now, Morin had run out of time, literally. While he was running the ball, the clock had hit 0, but a flag at the end of that play could make this all more interesting. Because if this is against Team New Brunswick, from my understanding, Alberta would have another play in their bag. And you can already hear down at field level, Alberta coaches screaming field goal, field goal, field goal. So they believe that they are going to have one more play left in this opening half in a 19-0 contest. So again, the officials having a bit of a organizational meeting, if you will, at the 15-yard line. Watch again this run by Matthew Morin, the tip and dive to get in, and then past the 20. Looked like right here he's going to need that one more block. If he had cut in and got it from his teammate there, Nicholas LeMay, that could have been an insane way to end the first half of play. But unnecessary roughness is the call against Team New Brunswick. That'd be half the distance to the goal from the spot of the foul. And originally, remember, Alberta was screaming field goal, field goal, field goal, thinking that they were going to bring out the field goal unit. But with the ball put half the distance to the and they put the ball at the 1-yard line, which then I don't understand either. Because if the foul happened around the 5, half the distance of the goal, my quick math skills, it's got to be at the 2 at least. But instead, it is what it is. The final play of the opening half, barring a penalty. The quarterback, Eli Hetlinger, right behind the center. A handoff to Delgado. Delgado trying to fight his way towards Enzo. The ball is loose. Who picks it up? If Alberta grabs it, it's a touchdown. Who's got it under all those bodies? The ball came loose as Delgado tried to stretch towards the goal line. One Alberta player in Sony Bermudez Chavez is saying it's a touchdown. Couple New Brunswick players are saying, no, hey, we got it. The officials are still trying to separate the twister match as New Brunswick celebrating as they come out of the pile, and they're going to say New Brunswick recovered it. First down, New Brunswick, to end out the first half of play. What an edutaining final minute of play here at Richardson Memorial Stadium. We thought Alberta was going to come up shy. Then all of a sudden we thought they were going to get a touchdown. Then you're looking on this replay here. The ball came loose. That's the 3rd turnover technically of the game for Alberta. 5 turnovers in the opening half of play. It was the very first game of the 2019 Football Canada Cup. We knew that, the officials, the broadcasters, yours truly, as well, you name it. Everybody's trying to knock off the rust, but 5 turnovers was completely and utterly unexpected. And as a result, though, Alberta still has a healthy 19-0 lead at halftime. That'll do it for the first half of action here from Kingston, Ontario. As again, it's East versus West, New Brunswick versus Alberta. And we'll be back with the second half of action.
Good job. Good job. Good job. Nice. Good job. There it is. Go. Keep him in. Exit, that's the way to accelerate.
I can't hear you. What's the difference between a good defense and a great defense?
Hi, I'm Matt Logan from Centennial High School in Corona, California. We use Game Breaker to flat out to keep our players safe. We love the product. It's very useful for us and everything we're doing in our off season here with spring and summer. We get a lot of value out of it. The kids feel protected. We really appreciate the D3O technology that it has and providing safety for our kids. Thank you.
As a youth coach, you're asked to do it all, and Huddle is here to help. We have the tools to make every video a learning opportunity. You can add comments and drawings to any play and share those clips with players so they can see what they did well and how to improve. You can also use Huddle to connect with built-in messaging, notify the entire team of last-minute changes, request feedback, or assign tasks. Head to the field knowing everyone is on the same page. And for those moments you want to celebrate, Huddle makes it easy to create and share highlights. Build an end-of-season reel while your players customize game highlights for their personal profiles. Make this the season you coach, connect, and celebrate, all with one tool. Sign up for a free trial to see how Huddle can help you this season.
What does it take to become elite? It takes more than dedication, focus, and hard work. It takes an elite-level training program. Customized, sport-specific, online. Your perfect workout every time. That's Vault Athletics.
welcome back here to Richardson Memorial Stadium in Kingston, Ontario, as it is Team Alberta versus Team New Brunswick, the very first game of this illustrious tournament to take place in the Limestone City. We're about 90 seconds away, according to the officials, from getting off into the second half of action. And if you recall, it was Alberta that kicked the contest off, meaning that they're going to actually receive the ball with the 19-0 lead. As we look to recap a bit of the keys of the game that we had at the beginning of our broadcast for Team Alberta, hit them early, and they certainly have done that on the run plays for New Brunswick. They haven't had a lot of real estate to go for. Protect the ball. I don't know necessarily if they've done that just yet. 3 turnovers, 1 interception, and 2 fumbles. And then D. Well, they've certainly done that, shutting out New Brunswick here in the first half, 19-0. For the guys in maroon, clock management. That was something that was vital at the beginning of this game, and they seem to be doing that in the first half. The pace of this contest has been incredible, but not necessarily in New Brunswick's favor, and protect the rock. Now, as much as Alberta's had 3 turnovers, well, New Brunswick's had 2 as well, so I don't know if they've been doing a decent job in that category. Regardless, a 19-0 lead for Alberta to start this second half of play. And again, a reminder that the last half of action was brought to you by Volt Athletics, the official supplier of online strength and conditioning services for Football Canada. To find out how you or your team can be in top competitive shape with sports-specific workouts, visit voltathletics.com. As the ball is booted all the way down to the 15-yard line, falling down to the turf. It was the turf turtle that caught him, folks, as unfortunately it got through. He had nothing but real estate in front of him, but unfortunately, Michael Peloso just, well, fell down to the ground. And I apologize, I keep getting 32 and 33 construed on those beautiful white with blue uniforms. That was Jaden Caston, again, that picked up the first rushing touchdown of this game. And if you're wondering, John, how'd you get to a 19-0 score in the first half of play? 2 rushing touchdowns by Team Alberta, 1 from Jaden Caston, 1 from Matthew Moran, as well as a field goal by Luke Nolan and a safety conceded by New Brunswick, has brought us to where we are right now. As we get the first play of this second half, great defense to start this second half of play, and I believe that's Xavier Malone, who already had a fistful of tackles in the opening half, and that's one way to get your team going here in this second half of action, as they'll bring up 2nd and 8. By the way, if you are around the Kingston or surrounding areas, this is going on all week here at Richardson Stadium. And if you want to see some of the most elite football that Canada has to offer, whether it's at the U18 level here in the Football Canada Cup or U16 will take off on Tuesday for the Eastern Challenge. As I believe this is Jaden Caston receiving the ball from his quarterback in Eli Hetlinger. And for Caston, he'll get, well, I would say about 4 or 5 yards out of it, but not enough for the first down. And Alberta, a quick 3-and-out. Looks like they're going to punt this one away to start off the second half. As we'll get a bit of a replay. One thing I've noticed throughout this contest, whether it is to Jaden Caston, which you saw in that last play right there, or to their other running back in Matthew Moran, they aren't afraid to allow their quarterback Eli Hetlinger to sort of throw behind him. And what you have to realize in the sport of football is if you throw behind you and your receiver doesn't catch the ball, that is a live ball. It's a fumble, and the other team can pick it up and can receive, or at least get the ball back into their possession. And yet Alberta has gone to the bread and butter, and it's worked for them so far, as we do have, unfortunately, an injured New Brunswick player close to the 30-yard line here with 10:51 remaining in this second half, or I should say second half, third quarter of action. Player appears to be okay, though, and he'll make it to the sidelines on his own accord. That's Xavier Malone, too. That would be a detrimental loss to New Brunswick's defense if he is not able to return in this game. Talking with the training staff, he appears to be okay. No matter what, because he was injured, he'll have to sit up a minimum of 3 plays before he can come back into this contest. But we knew coming in to this tournament that Xavier Malone, the linebacker, as well as the D lineman Nathan Clark, were the veterans on this New Brunswick defense. And seeing one of them go down a little early here in this second half, after making a big play on the very first defensive play of the game, or for in the second half, I should say. As a bit of a high snap, settled down by the punter, who gets this one off in a hurry. Luke Nolan, it bounces around at center field, just sliding on it. And from my understanding, I mean, picking up the ball was Gabriel Gagne. He's on his knees when he picks up that ball. That play should be dead where he grabbed it. If we see on the replay here, they are going to give no yards the penalty to Alberta. It should be the 5-yard variety and give New Brunswick a little more might up the turf. But if we see on this replay, as again the officials do call not enough yards given by Alberta, 5-yard penalty. Now you see where he goes up there, but unfortunately you didn't see it on that particular replay. When he receives the ball from the punt, he essentially he's sliding on his knees, and you cannot be, whether you're catching the ball, running the ball, or receiving any kick of any nature, have your knee on the turf. You are grounded right there. Regardless, New Brunswick will take it, though. 3 run to the line, a snap ball, Tremblay quickly to the near side. The ball is caught. Now, that will be a loss of 2 yards if it stands, but there's a flag on the field almost from the start of this play, and we'll see what the officials say on this occasion. This quarter brought to you by Shadowman. Shadowman Sports will revolutionize the way your team practices by reducing the risk of player-on-player contact. Practice game speed reps and get ahead of your competition with Shadowman Pro and Junior. Learn more through www.shadowmansports.com. Hashtag better every rep. As now on first down, 1st and 5 with the penalty yards going against Alberta. It's going to be fumbled away, picked up by the quarterback, and unfortunately for him, he would have been better off just falling on the ball instead of a trio of Team Albertan boys, including Davin Civic, who we've already named a couple times in the backfield for Alberta, getting in on the action. Now the ball comes loose as he was trying to hand it off to Colin O'Donnell, and as he gets up, a plethora, as I said, of boys, including Michael Peloso and Davin Civic, get in on the quarterback and sort of take him back from where he started, as now it becomes a 2nd and 9, it appears, on this next play. New Brunswick we saw him go to the air that one occasion, that big, deep ball threat from their quarterback in Samuel Tremblay, but other than that, we haven't seen a whole lot. They tried, I get tricky with it, and it's caught. He's got an open territory into the end zone. Oh, my word. Ryan LeBlanc, one of the returning players from last year's Canada Cup, gets New Brunswick on the board. Get tricky with it, folks. New Brunswick on the flea flicker, and it worked. And I was just saying how they hadn't gone deep. They only had that one deep play, and I thought, okay, they're going again to the well to this. Well, so did Alberta, and wide open behind the secondary was LeBlanc, and LeBlanc gets it into the end zone. As I mentioned before, Ryan LeBlanc competed in the only win in Football Canada history for Team New Brunswick in that 14-9 win over Nova Scotia last year. LeBlanc had 9 yards on 1 catch, 2 yards on 1 rush. That will be his biggest play of his Canada Cup career, folks, as the flea flicker works to perfection. The snap and the hold is good, but now it's botched, so he's going to have to try and attempt for 2, and Alberta says no to that. So unfortunately, New Brunswick couldn't get the point after touchdown, and as a result, with 9:09 remaining here in the third quarter play, it's a 13-point deficit, 19-6. As again, you saw the holder in Dylan House, who, by the way, is the backup quarterback to Samuel Tremblay. House is out of Moncton High School in Irishtown, New Brunswick, and, wisely, I think, once he realized, okay, this is snapped and I can't necessarily get into my kicker's wheelhouse, he decided, you know what, I'm going to try and take it for a gallop. And he had one Alberta boy to beat on that outside edge. Couldn't quite do it. It's a great job by Alberta to sort of hold him up in his tracks while the rest of his teammates came in to clean up on the action. It was 19 degrees at kickoff in a beautiful sunny sky. It's still beautifully sunny with a little bit of an overcast in the southern quadrant, eastern quadrant of the sky. But currently right now we're all the way up at 24 degrees. And expect things to get a little more hot, a little more humid as this day goes on, although there is a bit of a gust from the eastern side, keeping the players cool on the field and the fans in the stands, which is great to see people come out and support Canadian football here in Kingston, Ontario. And why not? They were treated to a pretty doozy of a play by New Brunswick there, and Ryan LeBlanc receiving the flea flicker as they will kick it away after their touchdown, their first touchdown of the 2019 tournament. It took them till game number 3, folks, to get their first touchdown in 2018 Eventually making the tackle on the near sidelines was Dylan Day, but not before a healthy return by Jaden Caston up to the 45-yard line, where Alberta will start their next offensive drive. And when you think about the last 4 or 5 drives of this game particularly, they have gone New Brunswick's way, as Alberta's had to punt. They've also fumbled the ball away at the end zone, and now they see that flea flicker touchdown pass against them in LeBlanc going into the end zone. You know, New Brunswick has a bit of momentum in their sails right now, as Alberta will go to the run. And you know what? It's one thing to follow up great offense. You got to follow it up with great defense, and they stopped Jaden Caston in his tracks. Caston with a bit of the, what do they call that, the 9-yard stare through the Team New Brunswick defenseman, as he did not appreciate them being held on to a little 1 Mississippi or 2 Mississippi more than he would have liked to. Regardless, it was a tackle for a loss. It'll bring up 2nd and 12. 3 options to the right side for Eli Hetlinger, and again out of Harry Ainley High School in Edmonton, Alberta. Hetlinger is going to go over to the right side, rolling out of the pocket. Will he go for a run? No, he fires it instead. It is caught. First down, Team Alberta. Great job by Eli to sort of just hang in there and continue to let the play open up, and eventually Dawson Glaude, of Cochrane, Alberta. He ends up finding him with a nissel right there, right at the first down marker. 2 New Brunswick players in Matt Mossman and Dylan Day in on the tackle. 7:42 remains here in the third quarter play. A 13-point lead for Team Alberta in this first game of the 2019 Football Canada Cup. An early, break out the coffee early, 9 a.m. kickoff here at Richardson Stadium. As here's the jet sweep to the near side, giving it to Sony Bermudez Chavez. Chavez trying to get to the edge, eventually pushed out of bounds by Dylan Day for a little gain of maybe, well, the officials are going to give him a healthy, yardage of, 4 yards. As again, the jet sweep. Great job by Eli, too. I know people might look at that replay and go, why does the quarterback do that? Well, it's just to throw off a few of those defensive players that might have got too quarterback hungry. And once you see that arm kind of flick like he's throwing the ball, it just gives Sony Bermudez Chavez maybe that extra second needed to get to the edge. Not necessarily on that occasion, as he got 4.5 yards on that play. 3 options to the right side. Eli Hitler reels it into the right side. It is caught. Looks like another potential first down. Kobe Herford with the catch. Once again in on the action is Dylan Day. I feel like he's been on every single play so far here in the second half defensively for the guys in maroon. As Day was the one again. Look at him just tugging on that jersey saying, you're not going anywhere. Seen you guys do that all too often in the first half, where a New Brunswick player would get a hand on one of the running backs, whether it was Matthew Moran or Jaden Caston, but that wasn't good enough because they would simply say, get off me, homie, and then end up going up another couple yards on the play. Now we're seeing in this second half, New Brunswick, the first contact is meaning something as they're taking down the Albertan boys. It looks like this is a handoff, but as I say that, right back to deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra, the former Yankees catcher, would say, as Alberta goes back to the run and back to Jaden Caston. And as you probably see on this replay, once again, New Brunswick had an opportunity to get to Caston at the line of scrimmage right about here. Well, maybe getting away with a little bit of a hold there was Alberta, as being held back was Riley Schramm out of Moncton High School, also an Irishtown, New Brunswick native. Had an opportunity potentially to get in on there. And well, folks, sometimes the broadcaster is right. They actually do catch Team Alberta on a holding penalty. So that will be a 10-yard penalty, repeat second down. So maybe that's the wake-up call for Team New Brunswick, because, again, as I was mentioning, they were doing such a great job here in the second half up until that play of tackling the running back on the initial contact instead of letting him get off the second, third tackles. And the first half, it looked like they needed the guys on the bench in the maroon jerseys to bring down one of those guys in white and blue. As once again, going into the shotgun is Eli Hetlinger. 3 run to the line. Lots of options now to the left side. He'll roll to the left side. Throws a dart to the left side. It is caught. And I think he's just shy of the first down, though. That's Adam Rayfat out of Belrose High School in St. Albert, Alberta. As you'll see, beautiful job here. Now, there was a plethora of options to the left, and immediately Hetlinger goes to the left, and yet somehow, some way, wide open on the play is Adam Rafat. I don't necessarily know what New Brunswick's defense is looking on that play, but if I see 4 targets to the left side, and I see the quarterback rolling to the left side, I'm going to think that it's going to the left side, and yet New Brunswick let a guy be wide open, although he was shy of the first down. They're going to go for it here on 3rd down. They're going to go to an identical play. He catches it, and that's all he really had to do. He broke off of a tackle, though. Now, this is interesting because where he caught the ball initially was good enough for a first down. But then he fought off of that, and the one official saying, no, he is shy, and they're going to say turnover on downs. Turnover on downs, New Brunswick ball. If we see on the replay here, though, where the original ball is caught by that gentleman right there, and Haley Luters, he's got the first down. All he's got to do is catch this ball by his quarterback, Eli Hetlinger, and fall down right there at the 30-yard line, and he'd have the first down. Instead, he tried to evade the tackle by Reed McKay, and instead ended up costing him a yard or two, and that yard or two is what he needed for the first down. A turnover on downs, and wow. Talk about 2 different teams right now in Team New Brunswick from the first half to this 3rd quarter as they go to the run play here to Nicholas Platus, again at a Moncton High School. It'll bring up 2nd and 8. But wow, a 19-0 lead at halftime. And in fact, it could have been even worse if Alberta didn't fumble the ball into the end zone on the final play of the first half. And New Brunswick said, you know what, it's our time to play some football here, boys. We didn't come here just to watch Alberta play. They used a tricky flea flicker to Ryan LeBlanc to get their first touchdown of the contest, and their defense has shut the door down 3 times now. As Tremblay looks around, range to the left side, throws it to his right side. Interesting play, and they get the first down out of it as he finds Nicholas Platus. So they went to a Platus run, and they go to a Platus pass, and they get the first down to the boys in maroon. Again, you're really starting to feel like momentum has switched sides here. And when you think about a 19-0 contest, no, it's not a complete domination, but it was dominating enough to think that Alberta was going to walk away with this one. Well, no, they're not, as here's the play action, having to get rid of the ball really quickly. And I'm kind of shocked. The officials have let a lot of things go here. Love the effort from Max von Muhldorfer out of Bishop Carroll High School in Calgary, Alberta. But he did lay on top of the quarterback for an extra second or two. And when you watch NFL football, the big boys and the professionals, they don't let you do that. You're not allowed to just sort of, smear in your tackle on top of the quarterback after, as we get a quick replay here. And really nothing Tremblay could do. No offensive line protecting him. He gets rid of the ball quickly. And as I mentioned, von Muhldorfer with the great hit, no problem with that, but then uses his body weight on the quarterback's back to get up was something I would take offense by. Tremblay going to the air. The ball came back on the receiver, and to be honest with you, Gabriel Gagne did not adjust to that ball in time. Charlie DeLand was the defensive player at St. Francis High School that was going mano-a-mano with them. But to be honest with you, if 17 and Gagne, the intended target, sort of recognizes the ball getting caught up in the air here, as this is the previous play to Platus for the first down run, and a great job by Platus, eventually tackled down to the turf by Charlie DeLand, and then it was Charlie DeLand on this next play, one-on-one coverage down the near sideline that had the opportunity that unfortunately just went for naught. And this will allow, once again on a 3rd and 10 situation, the punter and Matthew Morton to go out there. From his own 30, he's going to try and boot this one to the near sidelines. Now, there was a flag all the way back at the Alberta bench. I keep wanting to call them the Montreal Cannabans because they're identical uniforms to the Montreal Cannabans in the youth sports scene. And yeah, it's Team Alberta, so it's throwing me off a little bit. But there is a flag on this play. Now they're going to say no flag. So interesting enough, first down, Alberta regardless. They got the ball back into the possession with 2:56. I don't mind from Team New Brunswick, though, that last offensive drive, they mixed it up a bit. A little bit of slant passes. They went to a rush with Platus, and then they tried to go deep on that opportunity to Gabriel Gagne. And again, Gagne just a half second or two sooner if he tries to adjust on that ball. I'm not saying he would have caught it, but he might have forced a little pass interference out of Charlie DeLand, the Albertan boy, protecting him on that play. 2:45 remains here in the third quarter. Looks like a handoff to Matthew Morin. Morin right up the gut. A first down and more. Morin's looking towards the end zone. He's got a couple New Brunswick boys getting to the edge. He's eventually pushed out of bounds around the 30 by Nathan Treitz. So Treitz again getting in on the action after having a fistful of tackles in the first half. But watch this Morin run. Makes a little move to the right. Makes a move to the left, and stuck in the spin cycle this entire time while he made those moves to the right and the left was a guy that's recovered 2 fumbles on the day, and Owen O'Neill in the middle of the turf. So just like that, one run play by Morin, and all of a sudden they're at the 29-yard line as Team Alberta, and looking to wake up their offense after being shut out so far here in the third quarter after putting up 19 points in the first half. They go back to Morin. Great gap provided again, and Morin has got another first down run, eventually thrown out of bounds. Owen O'Neill, sort of an unnecessary tackle as Morin was already out of bounds, and another first down gallop, as this one is again great blocking up the field by Team Alberta. The battle of the trenches, they call it, folks, between the offensive line and the defensive line. And if you look at the offensive line of guys like Ethan Tutrote, as well as Dion Williams, Evan Beck, Nicholas LeMay, and Albert Reese, they are doing simply a better job than the defensive line of Austin Young, Thomas Allen, Sean Moore, Andrew Hess, and Riley Schramm. In the gun goes Eli Hetlinger. There is an offside and a half, as trying to get on the blitz was Owen O'Neill. The right idea, just poor execution. Good job by the quarterback, I should say, and Eli Hetlinger kind of just look over to his left side and go, wait a minute, that maroon jersey shouldn't be there, and they're going to get a free 5 yards out of the play. So, if you're Team New Brunswick, it's almost imperative with 1:52 remaining here in the third quarter that you limit Alberta to just a field goal here. I mean, you would love it. It would be Christmas come early if you could get a second fumble recovery in the red zone like they did to round out the first half of action here later in the third quarter. But I don't know if you're going to get that lucky. Regardless, they need to hold this Alberta team's offense on their own 10-yard line. The quarterback, Eli Hetlinger, he's got to get rid of it in a hurry. It was going to be some 7-on-7 violence at Matt Mossman had come down the pipe and was trying to hurt the quarterback. And a little bit of frustration shown by Eli Hetlinger there. I don't know if Matthew Morton had missed a block or something, because he had some kind words, and I believe he did actually. Morton was supposed to go right on that snap. He went left, and it was supposed to be a delayed handoff or a play action, and that's why Eli was upset, because essentially that was a broken play right out of the gate, and now it's 2nd and 5. So New Brunswick gets lucky there. As again, a snap to Eli. He's looking towards the end zone. Eli Hetlinger is going to run. He's towards the end zone, into the end zone. Touchdown, Alberta. But hold the phone, folks. There's a penalty on the play, and I believe that's going against Alberta. So a holding penalty goes up against number 65, Evan Beck, on the offensive line out of Edmonton, Alberta. So instead of having a touchdown on the board and making it, 25-6, you got to reset it back to 19-6, and you also have to put the ball back at the 20. So that idea of New Brunswick limiting them to just a field goal, that opportunity has cracked open the door open even more. As back into the gun is Eli Hetlinger. Looks back at his bench for proper instructions. 2 run to the line, 3 options to the right side. He's going to have to get rid of it. Side swipes, 2 tackles. Side swipes a third one. Oh, they say, third time's a charm. It was 4th time a charm. And then a foolish play, in my opinion, by Reed McKay. Reed McKay had made a beautiful play, but he got a little too overzealous at the end of that one, and I don't know if he tried to rip the helmet of the quarterback. He definitely tried to rip something off the quarterback, and as a result, the official said you can't do that and threw the flag late. That would have brought up 3rd and a mile, and instead, I think Reed McKay might have just cost his team, which is really sad to see. As you see at the end of this play, a beautiful tackle. He's there. Just let go of the quarterback, but there, a little bit of a rip on the face. You can't be doing that. That's just silly, and I don't know why you would think in this type of tournament, with the caliber of officiating, when you have one official from every province here, then you have the rest being filled out by locals here in Kingston, you're not going to miss that. And I just don't understand that is a bonehead move because, again, his team would have had third down, and it would have been a long field goal at that point for Team Alberta. So they would have had the benefit of everything. Instead, automatic first down. It'll be 1st and 10 from the 11-yard line. 4 options to the right side. Will Eli make them pay? Eli throws it towards the end zone. It is caught into the end zone. Touchdown, Alberta. Haley Luters in on the action out of Sherwood Park, Alberta. The first reception touchdown of the game as he hooks up with his quarterback from 11 yards out. As again, you see the replay here. And again, rolling out is the quarterback and Eli Hetlinger. And then again, I'm not too sure. You're looking down. Nathan Traits kind of has his palms up in the air, like, what do you want from me? Because I think he was in charge of covering the the target in the back of the end zone, and he ended up, did Eli Hetlinger, throwing it to the near side of the end zone, and ended up getting the touchdown as a result. It brings it up to 25-6 with this extra point looming. Snap hold is good, and so is the kick. 26-6. Extending it to a 20-point lead is Team Alberta. And I was thinking, too, in that third quarter of play, the last time New Brunswick scored any points, they won a game. They got shut out in their first game against Quebec last year, their second game against BC, but then they won 14-9 over Nova Scotia. It was a bit of a gamble, but I thought maybe New Brunswick was going to wake up here in the second half, and after that flea flicker touchdown by Ryan LeBlanc, I thought, oh my word, they're going to come back into this game and make it a doozy. Well, Alberta's defense for now has flipped the switch off on that notion, and their offense went back to work after it looked like they were going to be shut out in the third quarter of play. Instead, it's Eli Hetlinger hooking up in the air with Haley Luters for an 11-yard TD catch to extend it to a 20-point lead. 24 seconds, I beg your pardon, remains here in this third quarter of play. Looking towards the far end zone, I see, I believe that's Team Manitoba making their appearance felt here at the Richardson Memorial Stadium. The ball is kicked away, bounces at the 30, bounces around. Who's got the ball? They go in on it, and the ball came loose, and Alberta jumped on it, and Alberta may have recovered this ball. They have. Alberta ball at the 29-yard line. If we see on the replay there, it was a beautiful kick to the 30. I don't necessarily know what number 99 Nathan Clark was thinking there. I get it. You're a big 6'3", 233-pound defensive lineman. It's not necessarily your job to retrieve the ball, but still, it's bouncing right in front of you. You got the entire Team Alberta coming down at you. You got to grab that ball no matter what position you play. He doesn't. Instead, it gets loose, bobbles around by a bunch of players, and eventually Alberta gets it. So many turnovers. I haven't had my Tim Hortons fix, but there are plenty of turnovers in this game, I'll tell you that much, folks. As this is a delayed handoff to the left side to Jaden Caston. Gets a bit of a roar out of the New Brunswick bench. In on the tackle was Owen O'Neill. Barring a penalty, this should be the final play of the third quarter. Although it seems like at the end of every quarter in this game so far, something quirky has happened. So I wouldn't put it past Team Alberta or Team New Brunswick to do it again here in the final play of the third quarter. By the way, nobody uses the timeout in that third quarter play, so each team still has 3 heading into the fourth. Final play, Eli Hetlinger tries to find his receiver, and he does. In on the tackle is Dylan Day. The ball comes loose again. And are they going to say that it was off the ground, or are they going to say that ball was live? They are going to say that ball was live. It was recovered by Alberta, so they essentially lose 2 yards on that play. It'll bring up third down. And that's the end of the third quarter as we go into the fourth and final quarter of play. We got the replay here as it's Hetlinger to Hereford. Hereford's knee is not down. That ball was live. And then 2 New Brunswick boys. Matthew Morton was fighting his own teammate to get to the ball. If they worked as teammates, they would have had the ball in their possession. Instead, Alberta does get it back. And a bit of a scare there. As I mentioned, though, it still brings up third down. With the ball placed at they're going to say 29-yard line. And do they punt here, or are they try and attempt a field goal? They do have Luke Nolan out there, their kicker, out of St. Francis. looks like Nolan is going to attempt the field goal here. This one from 36 yards out near hash mark. Snap is good. Hold is good. The boot is up, and it is good. 36-yard field goal by Luke Nolan. Extends it to a 29-6 lead here at the beginning of the fourth quarter of play. So for Team New Brunswick in this fourth quarter with 11:37 remaining in it, you still have another game in this tournament, regardless of whether you win or lose today. And for New Brunswick, I can imagine you're going to work on a little bit of structure, a little bit of finding your ground, trying to get a foundation laid here in the fourth quarter of play today so that when they do enter their second game of the tournament, that they'll, have a little more roots into their offense and defense for that matter to try and put a better foot forward. As back out on the offense is the quarterback in Samuel Tremblay. He'll quickly hand this ball off, but again, fiercely in on the tackle is Jack Dutton this time, the linebacker out of Okotoks, Alberta. 11:15 remains here now in the game with the clock ticking down against New Brunswick. As I mentioned before, for Team Alberta, they finished second last year in the 2018 Football Canada Cup, losing a close contest in the dying minutes of play, 31-26 to Team Saskatchewan in the championship contest. So they want to get back to that championship contest, and they want to make sure that they're walking away with Football Canada Cup this year. As having to fire it over to the far sideline there, as getting pressured out of the pocket while doing so was Samuel Tremblay. It'll bring up a third down, a quick 3 and out by Team New Brunswick. And now we're starting to see New Brunswick try and go to the air a bit more, but a little too late, and they haven't been able to establish much. As again bringing in the pressure on that was Jack Dutton, avoiding the block potentially laid there by Tom Brow. So with a 23-point lead, awaiting the ball to be punted back to them is Team Alberta. Going back now is Matthew Morton. And all the way back at the 40-yard line, awaiting to return this ball is Sony Bermudez Chavez. A whistle goes on the field, and they're going to say timeout Alberta with 10:21 remaining here in the contest. Again, a quick reminder that this is far from the only action here today from the 2019 Football Canada Cup. Next up, Team Manitoba will go to work, as well as later on today, I'll be back on the helm as the defending champions, Team Saskatchewan, kicks off against Team Nova Scotia at 3 p.m. And then later on, I believe it is Ontario versus BC, if I'm not mistaken. As now you'll have the punt going out after the timeout from Team Alberta. They still have Sony Bermudez Chavez back there. They're going to try and avoid Chavez by just sort of, I don't want to call it a squib kick, but it almost looked like one from the punter that time in Matthew Morton. Like a skipping rock off of the calm waters that goes to the near sidelines and bounces out of bounds. They're going to say at the 53-yard line. And that's where Alberta is going to start this next possession. I'd imagine for Team Alberta, a healthy 23-point lead. The last thing you'd want to do at this point is cause an injury or run a play that could lead to an injury. So I'd imagine a lot of rush plays, a lot of number 5, who's right beside the quarterback in Eli Hetlinger, in Matthew Morin. So 3 run of the line, 3 options to the left side. They're going to throw this one, and did he keep it? Wow. Unbelievable job by Sony Bermudez Chavez after taking a mean, and I mean mean, hit by Owen O'Neill. He hung on to the ball. Watch this, folks. This one makes my bones rattle. And somehow, Eli Hetlinger, which he's done all afternoon, fires another dart. But this one, they call that a suicide pass for a reason, folks. Because despite Sony Bermudez Chavez catching it, he was not in a good scene. As now Hetlinger will fire it out again. This one's off the fingertips of the intended target and Kobe Herford. It'll bring up 3rd and short. We'll see if Team Alberta gambles here with their 23-point lead and the ball at midfield. So as I said at the beginning of this drive, Team Alberta, they're going to run. They got to run with the clock. Well, no, they go to 2 straight pass plays instead. And as a result, it's 3rd down. And you know what? Their quarterback there, number 7, Eli Hetlinger, goes into the pocket, and it looks like they are going to attempt to go for it here. 3rd and 2. They got Matthew Moran as the lone back. 3 running the line, 3 options to the left side. Instead, it's just fired immediately to the right side. It is caught a first down by Sony Bermudez-Chavez. So the guy that opened up the drive and the guy that's closing it out with the first down play is the same guy. It's Sony Bermudez-Chavez. I like this play design, though, as Moran scoots out to the left side. He already had 3 targets running to the left side and just quickly threw it to the right to Sony Bermudez-Chavez, who's arguably one of the top receivers in this tournament for any team, let alone Team Alberta. Whistle on the field. Looks like there's a timeout this time from Team New Brunswick. So Team NB's down to 2 timeouts. Team Alberta is also down to 2 timeouts with 8:47 remaining here in the hourglass from Kingston, Ontario, otherwise known as the Limestone City Richardson Memorial Stadium. Again, home to the Queen's Gales. If you're familiar with the university football scene here in Canada, Queens is definitely one of those programs that have been around for ages, but they did make a change this last offseason, a pretty big change if you ask me. They hired Western University's offensive coordinator, Steve Snyder, and Snyder will now be the new head coach for the Queens Gales, taking over for the legend, Pat Shahan. So, again, for the Queens Gales, they'll be playing on this turf in fall for their 2019 season. They'll be led under a new bench boss in Steve Snyder. Beautiful facility, by the way. I think that's not something we've gotten a chance to talk about all too often throughout this opening broadcast of the tournament. A beautiful facility. This stadium is top-notch, arguably the best in Ontario, if not one of the best in Canada for university football. Eli Hetlinger goes back into the shotgun with 3 options to his left side, 1 to his right. He's going to fire it over to his right. The target's open. It is caught. Sony Bermudez-Chavez makes a move inside, and he's gone. Put him in the cassette deck. Sony Bermudez-Chavez with the touchdown, baby. The second TD thrown by Eli Hetlinger, and that one was from, oh my word, 40-plus yards out. Now, normally you'd see a team just jumping with joy, but when you're already up by 29 points, Team Alberta being respectful on this occasion. Great job by Eli to hang into that pocket with pressure coming. And this kid, I mean, does he check his gloves for Stickum? Because that last catch that he made prior to this one, where he kind of took a mean hit to make the play, somehow that ball stuck into his glove. And I thought Eli might have overthrown this last one, but again, Sony Bermudez-Chavez just sticks it into that palm, makes 1 move to the inside, and he's gone, folks, for a touchdown. So 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. That ball skipped off the turf, and I don't want to go down this alleyway, but I will anyway because I'm that type of broadcaster. You look at Team New Brunswick, and their body language says it all. That last ball was snapped. It got skipped along the turf. If Team New Brunswick brings the pressure, if they bring their A game, if they're doing it like the first play, they have a chance of blocking that ball, but I feel like they're a little dejected at this point after that Sony Bermudez-Chavez touchdown. And really, I mean, Alberta had all the time in the world to pick the ball off the turf, reset it, and get the extra point to go. It brings it to a 36-6 lead here with 8:39 remaining in this fourth quarter of play. And again, for Team Alberta, they started off the tournament last year with a 31-21 win over BC, 23-13 win over Quebec before losing in the final 31-26 to Team Saskatchewan. So for Alberta, they got to be feeling pretty good to get past the 35-point plateau. They only got 31 points was their max production in last year's tournament. As approaching the pigskin and booting it away is Luke Nolan. All the way back at the 15, somewhat stumbling a bit with it, but then collecting it. It was up the field, and you know what? For half a second there, I thought Tyler Avani might have had the opportunity out of Moncton High School in Dieppe, New Brunswick native, to go all the way, as there seemed to be a bit of a holding on the field, and maybe that's why that gap opened up that I saw in the middle of the turf. The officials are going to have a conversation about it, and it looks like they are going to call a hold against Team New Brunswick. So it's illegal. It is against Team New Brunswick regardless. It turns into an automatic first down. So that's a 15-yard penalty, by the way. Oh, there it is. Number 8 at the end of that play. I didn't catch it originally. Jordan Colpitz for whatever reason, decided to get in a sucker punch on one of the Team Alberta players, and as a result, it cost his team 15 yards, and for that, I say good riddance. Tack on another 15. 8:28 now remains in this game. The quarterback in Tremblay trying to will his team back into this contest. This is a sweep to the left side, and Alberta, like they've done all day on New Brunswick's run game, just stuffing them in the tracks. Not a lot of traction. Leading the charge on that tackle was Pearson Meyer, the linebacker out of Medicine Hat, Alberta, and you see him here running in on the blitz and just follows up the running back, grabs him with one hand, then another handful of jersey, gets some help from his teammate, and they get him down to the turf. Less than 8 minutes remaining now, as I believe that is Team Nova Scotia, if I'm not mistaken, also making their attendance felt here at Richardson Memorial. They'll be taking on Team Manitoba soon enough. As the quarterback ranges back, throws the ball, it is caught, but again, no real estate to go for Logan McNamee. And for McNamee out of St. John High School in St. John, New Brunswick, the 6'2", 187-pound receiver is a big target, but unfortunately, you see on this play, not enough separation. And one thing I'll throw back at you, in on the tackle for Team Alberta was Saeed Mustafa. Now, there's just all sorts of pressure being applied by the defensive line and opening up gaps for the linebackers for Team Alberta, that for a guy like Samuel Tremblay, who's trying to just go through his reads and his motions, he doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of time. So he makes a beautiful pass to his teammate and Logan McNamee there, but to be honest with you, Logan McNamee's not even 2 strides into his route, and as a result, he's got no real way to go. Now, this will be interesting here. With 7 minutes remaining, down by 30 points, do you dare concede another safety, or do you allow your punter and Matthew Morton just to boot this one away? Morton has it, and you know what? Morton is going to just run as much clock out as possible. I don't mind that strategy, and eventually backtracks out of bounds. It'll be another safety conceded by New Brunswick, the second safety conceded in this game from the boys out east. It'll bring the score up to 38-6 now, with 6:47 remaining in the contest. Now, normally, I would say, you know what, you take a safety for sure, because it's all about field positioning in this Canadiana football game, considering there's 10 extra yards on the field in total, lengthwise, and then widthwise, it's a bit bigger as well. So field positioning is a big factor in the Canadian side of football, which people, I think, south of the border, or people that watch a lot of NFL or NCAA football may not understand. Well, why would you ever purposely concede a safety? When you're dealing with 10 more yards lengthwise and a few more yards widthwise, you definitely want to be able to play the field to the best of your ability. But on that particular occasion, I don't know, you're down by 30. And, you know, your defense has shown signs of having some big plays, but I guess you stick with the mentality of field positioning. At the end of the day, too, if New Brunswick were to go 1-1 and another team were to go 1-1, I think it would come down to point differential. So ideally, you'd rather give up a safety than give up an easy target for a touchdown for Alberta, as they would have probably gotten the ball back well within New Brunswick territory. Should give a big shout out to our crew, doing an amazing job. All the camera people, as well as the producers and our replays. Sebastian, Joe, Jill, Cade, Leanne, and Brendan, all doing a marvelous job with the first production of the day. One of four broadcasts on your Sunday, if you could believe it or not. We started this one up at 9 a.m., folks. 9 a.m. for a team from Alberta. That's got to be awfully early, but yet they have woken up in a hurry as they have a 38-6 lead. New Brunswick showed a formation like they were going to get tricky on the kick, but they don't. They just boot it down the field, and a healthy return up the turf by Jaden Caston past the 40, up to the 44, where Team Alberta will start their next drive. And I'd imagine if they haven't already, you're going to see a lot of, you know, the players that didn't start this game, players that maybe saw a bit more bench time throughout the first 3 quarters. I imagine this is the time you're going to try and get them their licks as well. For Team Alberta, I said this the last drive, and they fooled me. They went to passing instead. With 6:25 remaining in this game, I would start running the ball. I know they fumbled the ball away a couple times, though, so maybe that's in the back of their heads here. 3 options to the left side. They are going to run it. It's Jaden Caston, breaks through a hole, tries to get through another gap. He's up the turf past the 45, tackled by 2 New Brunswick players. There's a flag close to the 50. Let's see what the officials say here. Kingston had the first down, so even if it's against Alberta, I think the penalty yards would be applied after the first down. So it is exactly as I just mentioned. They are going to call a penalty against Alberta. They're going to call holding against Alberta, but the hold comes right. I didn't quite see it. Maybe they're getting 54 earlier on that play in Clay Vetter. But regardless, what they do there is they give Alberta the first down, but then they apply the yardage afterwards. So it puts the ball actually back at the 52-yard line, but it'll be a 1st and 10 for Alberta with less than 6 minutes now remaining on the clock here from Kingston, Ontario. As New Brunswick trying to get loud for their defense, trying to get some momentum underneath their sails. As again, Jaden Kingston getting a little dose of JC here, folks. This is back up to the 45-yard line, a first down gallop for the running back. So I thought they were going to do this last drive. They didn't. They went to 2 passes, had a quick 3 and out. This time they are going to the bread and butter, which is their run game. And as a result, they are moving the clock along, and they're drilling it further and further into New Brunswick territory. So again, New Brunswick a bit on their heels. They'll put 4D to the line. Alberta's got 3 options to the left side for the quarterback in Eli Hetlinger. 3 run to the line. He'll take the snap. Looks like another handoff to Jaden Kingston, but reading it all the way that time was New Brunswick's own Jamie Gallant. Now Gallant is also out of Moncton High School, but watch this play. I mean, he just knew right away what was going to happen, folks, and he went right through the line in a hurry. Kingston gets that ball, but swallowing him up whole. Like a great white shark that time was the New Brunswick boy. As it'll bring up 2nd and long now for Team Alberta with less than 4:40 remaining on the clock. 3 run to the line, 2 options to the right side. They're going to throw it to the left. Once again, Jaden Kingston. Kingston is tackled just past the 45. So he probably got the yards back that he lost on the previous play. It'll bring up 3rd down. And more than likely, the Team Alberta will just punt this one away with a healthy 32-point lead. But that drive is the drive that I thought we were going to see from Alberta throughout this 4th quarter. And they finally did it there. But to be honest with you, I'm really surprised if they had done that on the previous couple drives. This game might have been already over by now, as they've been chewing up a lot of clock when they go to the run game. 3rd down punt coming up. And once again, going out there to boot it away is Luke Nolan. Nolan from midfield. Bit of a knuckleball, goes off the 10, takes a bounce, and this one's getting into the end zone. Now they still have to give him 5 yards. He picks up the ball. He's got to get out of the end zone, though. He doesn't get out of the end zone. Unreal for Team New Brunswick. That is the most Canadian play in all of football, folks. It's called the Rouge. And the actual history of the Rouge is the only reason why they call it a Rouge was because when they originally had it happen, they used to throw a red flag. So they call it a Rouge. But you're not going to see that in the NCAA. You're not going to see that in arena football. You're not going to see that in the NFL. No, you're only going to see it in the Great White North. 1 point put on the board. There's a thing that Americans do with the football games. It's called scoregami. And they take every final score in the NFL's history and they put it on a giant chart. And they list out certain scores that'll never be touched. Well, all of scoregami could be touched in theory in the Canadian game, as you have the Rouge, that's 1 point. Safety's used an awful lot, that's 2. As this one is thrown to the near side, trying to hook up with his brother was Samuel to Caleb. Incomplete pass, as getting in on a hurry was Charlie DeLand. Been really impressed with DeLand's defense against the pass from New Brunswick. As we see on the replay here, one brother in Samuel Tremblay fakes the handoff, then tries to find his other brother. And I do apologize, it wasn't DeLand on that last play. It was Sheldon McNabb out of Sherwood Park, Alberta. 3:05 remains here in this contest. Tremblay reigning back in the pocket, going to fire it over the top, has the target open at the 50. It is collected, and a little bit of a late hit if you ask me, thrown in there by Carson Remus. But collecting it with glee and getting the first down was Tyler Avani. Now, interesting enough, we did not say Avani's name a whole lot in the first half of play, but as you see the replay here of this last Avani catch from his quarterback in Samuel Tremblay, I mean, he got the wheels, he ran the route, he got open, he caught the ball. I'm surprised they're not targeting that guy a little bit more, As down at midfield for a quick second was Charlie Deland. Hope I did not jinx that young gentleman, as he appears to be okay, though. Will walk to the sidelines on his own accord. And I'll be brutally honest, in a 33-point differential and less than 3 minutes into this game, you don't want to see anybody get hurt. And I know fans don't appreciate this, and then whether you're here at Richardson Memorial Stadium or whether you're watching live from coast to coast and all around the world on YouTube, but once, if New Brunswick stutters out on this drive, I would just knee out the clock if I was Team Alberta. They instead go to a sweep to the near side, and getting a bit of yards out of it was Caleb Fogarty. We've seen Fogarty get involved in the action a lot in the first half, not so much here in the second half. Getting a touch there, though, bringing it up to the Alberta 50-yard line on second down. And they give him a healthy gain of 7 yards, too, on that play. 3 run to the line, 3 options to the right side. Samuel Tremblay rolling way back in the pocket. Now he's going to step up. He's going to throw it in and out of the hands of the intended target, and Caleb Fogarty. We were just talking about him, folks, and unfortunately that was an easy catch, an easy first down, and you know what? He had real estate in front of him to do even more damage, but this is just the simple case of thinking about the next step before you think about the first. The first step's catching the ball. The second step is running up the field and getting more yards. That yak, they call it, yards after catch. But unfortunately, you got to do the first part of the equation, which is the actual catching part, and that did not come to fruition that time for Caleb Fogarty. And as a result, it brings up a third down play. Now, again, your guess is as good as mine, down 33 points. Is New Brunswick just going to go for it here? The ball's at Alberta's 50. But instead, it looks like their punter, and Matthew Morton has gone out there and is located back at the 45. I would have been a riverboat gambler at this point of the game, but, maybe better be safe than sorry. As, again, the punter takes a bit of a high snap, settles it down at the 45. A moon shot will eventually be caught by Sony Bermudez Chavez, and Chavez looked up the field immediately and saw daylight. It closed up quickly down the near sidelines, but not before he returned the ball to the 50-yard line. Ironically enough, where the ball was snapped from is where Sony Bermudez Chavez brings it back. This high booming punt, by the way, the officials totally gave a little leverage here. There's 2 maroon jerseys well within 5 yards of Bermudez Chavez, but they were kind of to the left and to the right of him. Bermudez Chavez took advantage of it, ran right up the gut, back up to the 50. 1:52 remains here in this contest. But a reminder, right at noon, which is less than an hour away, it'll be Manitoba versus Nova Scotia as we do this thing all over again. As this is a handoff to number 22 in Cordea Hall. Now, Cordea Hall, with his first carry from my stats in this game, at Edmonton, Alberta, the 5'9", 180-pound running back, almost got the first down. 8 yards on the carry, 2nd and 2. $1:40 remaining in this contest. Again, 39-6 is the score favoring Alberta. Not too shabby when you consider it was a 19-0 game at halftime, with Alberta fumbling the ball into the end zone when they had a chance to add even more points before the locker room break. They're going to go back to Cordea Hall here. Now, he only needed 2 yards, and I believe Hall got it on this run, and that will move the chains. First down, Alberta, with 1:20 now remaining in the contest. And again, you're noticing, the starting quarterback, he was still at the helm up until this drive. They've now gone to their kicker in Luke Nolan, who's the backup to Eli Hetlinger. Remember that they thought Anton Amadrid was going to return, and he was the starting quarterback for all 3 games in last year's tournament. Cordea Hall puts on the brakes, stutters back in. Cordea Hall, eventually, that's a football play, folks. Owen O'Neill. O'Neill's had 2 fumble recoveries in this game. Now, O'Neill looks like he might be a little worse for wear after making that hit. But watch this, first of all. Beautiful job by Cordea Hall. Moves over to the left side, makes a cut in here, stutters the brakes on. But then this football hit. Whew, that's a collision. Northbound on a southbound freeway. Look out. 30 seconds now remaining in this game. I'd imagine now maybe Alberta has 1 more play left, and then Luke Nolan, despite the fact that New Brunswick has 2 timeouts, will probably knee this game out in victory formation. As Nolan lines up right behind his center, and he does take 1 knee to wind this clock down to the final play of the game. And Alberta, after going 2-1 in the 2018 Football Canada Cup, beating BC by 10, beating Quebec by 10, only to lose by Saskatchewan by 5 in the final, come out here in 2019. And in the first game, in an early 9 a.m. start, they beat the New Brunswick team 39-6. A 33-point differential in the first contest of the 2019 Football Canada Cup. And for Alberta, as I mentioned before, from last year, they finished second place. From 2017 all the way to 2014, they lost 4 consecutive bronze medal matches. From 2013 to 2011, they lost 3 consecutive finals for the Canada Cup. And that was all to Quebec, ironically enough, in 2013, 12, and 11. As the greatest line in all of sports forms at midfield, as these two teams will shake each other's hands. Now, essentially how this works is one team moves up into the winner's bracket and is 1 win away. It is Alberta now, making it back to the final dance like they did last year where they lost to Saskatchewan. And for New Brunswick, unfortunately, just like last year when they lost their first contest, though, by a much degrading 56-0, this one was a little less fierce at 39-6. Well, they'll go sort of into the loser's bracket, if you will. The best that they can place, from my understanding, is now 5th. So that's kind of how the tournament goes. You need that victory right off the top. Alberta gets the job done, and why not? Again, this is a team that placed second last year. Also placed second in 2013, 2012, 2011. They've always been the bridesmaids, folks, as that's my point I'm trying to make. But this year in 2019, they want that ring. What does Beyonce say? Put a ring on it? That's what Alberta wants in 2019 here in Kingston, Ontario. As, again, a great contest, and something I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, 9 a.m.'s pretty early for football, folks. And then you consider Alberta, I believe, is giving up at least 2 hours differential on the clock. So in their minds, I know they've had a week to adjust here to Ontario, but still the Alberta boys, in their minds, it's 7 a.m. when they started this game. For New Brunswick, at least they get the benefit of the doubt if they're an hour behind. So in theory, they started at a 10 a.m. game in their clock. Regardless, at the end of the day, what I would say when it's all said and done, though, is Alberta was a little too much to handle here for Team New Brunswick. New Brunswick showed glimmers of hope. I mean, that flea flicker to Ryan LeBlanc at the opening of the second half was a thing of beauty, and really, I thought was going to change the course of this game and how everything was going to go down. In fact, throughout that entire third quarter, it felt like Team New Brunswick was kind of slipping momentum back into their side. One great defensive play after another, and then unfortunately, after getting 2 rushing touchdowns in the first half of action, Eli Hetlinger gets 2 passing touchdowns in the second half of action, including a big one to Sony Bermudez-Chavez. As again, these two teams will line up at each other's 45-yard line. I believe there's a player of the game chosen for each team. And that's an offensive and defensive player of the game. Tina Turner, the executive director of Ontario Football, is down there to present the awards. So they give the offensive player of the game for Team New Brunswick to Ryan LeBlanc, who caught that flea flicker pass. As I mentioned, he's one of the 15 returning players from last year's team who grabbed their first ever Football Canada victory against Nova Scotia in a 14-9 contest. But the LeBlanc touchdown catch was arguably, I think, the highlight of this game, despite the fact that New Brunswick did not win the contest. That flea flicker, they got tricky with it, and they fooled everybody, including me, because all game long they had done nothing but thrown it behind the line of scrimmage. And they end up giving it to Xavier Malone. Somebody I had mentioned throughout this game, another guy that I thought they could have given it to is Owen O'Neill, who had 2 fumble recoveries, but they do give it to Xavier Malone, who came into this game already kind of viewed as that veteran on the defensive side of the staff. And why not? I mean, his team had some gusto at times, and as I mentioned in that third quarter, looked like they were going to shut them out. It didn't necessarily happen, though, at the end of the day. So the offensive player of the game for the Alberta squad is Matthew Morin. He had 1 rushing touchdown and a plethora of big plays throughout your Sunday morning. And a great job by Matthew Morin. Again, out of Lloydminster High School in Lloydminster. I assume he was a part of the Lloydminster football team that won a provincial championship. And the defensive player of the game, it goes to Charlie DeLand. I said throughout this contest that DeLand was sticking like white on rice the majority of those maroon uniforms. And you know what? Good things happen to good people. Charlie DeLand, who put in a solid effort all day long, pretty much doing an amazing job on the pass coverage too specifically, ends up being the defensive player of the game. So there you go. Charlie DeLand, defensive player of the game. Matthew Moran, offensive player of the game. And then for Team New Brunswick, defensive player of the game and offensive player of the game. Great job by both squads, as again, we're just 43 minutes away from the next contest in the 2019 Football Canada Cup, which will take place between Manitoba and Team Nova Scotia. It looks like that will do it for us, though, for this broadcast. And once again, I'd like to give a big shout-out to the crew for doing an amazing job in Sebastian, Joe, Jill, Cade, Leanne, and Brendan. As this was a great production, I'm Johnny Urban, happy to take you through this 39-6 final for Team Alberta over Team New Brunswick. But don't you go anywhere. We're just a quarter of the way through the action, folks. 3 more football contests. Yeah, if you like football, we got your fix here on your Sunday.